The meeting to order. We have already had our pledge of the allegiance to our flag and our country. So we move on to the approval of today's agenda.
So moved.
By Joan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Paul. All those in favor say aye.
Question.
Oh, hold it.
Are we?
Oh, we got to adjust it
We got to modify our times
if we go.
to amend the motions to work right through lunch.
I think if you just note that we don't have anybody scheduled that's coming in after lunch.
No.
Okay, before we officially vote, then let's
we do have somebody.
be aware that we're going to be running through the noon hour, moving those two items, just moving up a little bit earlier in our agenda.
We're gonna have to contact Mr. Christian because he's scheduled for 1:20. Ashley can call him.
Okay,
Come early.
so we'll see if that can work.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. And then we have 5 consent items. Any questions on those?
I move.
We have a move. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Members forum, Joan, can you start us out?
Oh, sure. I have to see where I've all been. Well, last week we did have our emergency board meeting that we met in closed session for litigation. I had my monthly radio program. Had our women's cohort, and did a lot of discussion on the election, and sad of some of the current commissioners that lost in the election. So there's between the retirements and then like the new commissioners that just about equals out. So, but just kind of some boards are looking at some fairly significant changes in their boards.
Were there any local, Joan, that we know?
Kitson County will have some change.
Was Leon out? Leon?
Yes.
Anyone else out that?
One of them, I believe, did not file.
Oh, yeah, I recall that.
And then the other race was 12 votes difference.
Close.
Yeah. Yeah, there were some very close races, and
Was our lady friend successful?
by 12 votes.
Oh my goodness.
So
And Leon's my good friend. And I didn't check. I just assumed.
yeah, no, because I think I know Teresa for sure was in a primary. I don't remember if Leon was, but yeah.
Teresa Gilly, is you're referring to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So
Thank you. Sorry about that.
yeah. And then I had a Shack executive meeting, and we talked about how our retreat had went, and let's see, and then we looked at some things that are going to be coming up at our main Shack meeting in December, which will be the day after we get done with our AMC annual conference. And then I was in St. Paul for Futures, and as always, it was a very interesting and thought-provoking program. Kind of a positive. We actually had Commissioner Tomes, who is the commissioner for the state IT department. And then he also had the person that's in charge of cybersecurity. And um, we spent a lot of time talking about the social service, the SSIS programs. And we found out that I believe it was last year that in the governor's budget, he put 40 million into a technology account that nobody knew about. And it's supposed to kind of be just used like for small fixes and that type of stuff. So we asked him initially, well, can some of the social service, programs come out of that? And first off, he was no. And then, we asked him some questions and stuff. And then I spoke, because of being vice chair for the HHS policy conference committee, I said that we have been, one of our priorities for like 20 years has been system modernization. And he talked a lot about how, like, with DCYF, that, our main concern is the health and the welfare of our children. And I said, how can we say that we are doing the best for these children when it's taking hours for our workers to input
Work.
information? And each program is a silo. And a lot of times that if a family receives assistance through one program, that there's multiple programs that they're going to receive assistance from. And the information has to be put in for each of those, different types of assistance. So I said, the more times you input, the chance of errors increases. And, it's frustrating. And, when you sit there and you watch the circle, the wheel just keeps spinning. And so he, then he kind of asked, well, if it was a choice between PRISM and SSIS, which program would be priority? And it's SSIS, So, I think that hopefully we're going to have a better, closer relationship with him. And, he really knows kind of what we're dealing with and stuff. So hopefully we can see something going forward. But and then we had a speaker he's executive director for the Citizens League, talking about how to promote job opportunities in the local government sectors. Because all counties are struggling with openings and stuff. And then that evening we had Justice Sarah Hennessy. So was originally in the 7th District in St. Cloud, but she just was recently appointed to the Minnesota Supreme Court. And she was a wonderful speaker. And, it was interesting of hearing their process. And like for a case that each justice writes out their opinion, and then they kind of all mesh them together and stuff. And then we also had, some of you remember Commissioner Tony Carter from Ramsey County. She's working on, it's called Guaranteed Income Pilot Projects. So she gave a presentation on that. And, it's, they haven't been going that long yet to really actually see the data of, how those things help. But and then yesterday, both Paul and I were at the Sand Hill Advisory Board. I represent the ag community on that board. And so we'll be later on in our agenda, we'll be looking at approving Stuart Christian to continue on that board. And then I had a DAC meeting last night, and we just have had to, the board has had to make some difficult decisions, and you know, we'll be moving forward in the next couple weeks. So that should be it for me.
Thank you, Joan. Mark?
Three items. One, I attended the Marshall Polk Water Advisory Board, their requirement of opening up to the public for their annual review of the Middle River Snake Watershed District. It was in the metropolis of Middle River yesterday. Nothing earth-shaking as far as Polk County involvement, but a lot of big projects up in Newfolden and completion of some projects, mostly in Marshall County, which are big dollar projects. After that, a gentleman at that meeting approached me, and I think Sheriff Tadman was involved in a conversation with this gentleman. Apparently up in Brant Township, Section 2, there's an abandoned Polk County gravel pit. And so yesterday I stopped out there. I heard about it and received pictures and comments from this individual, and swung out there yesterday. And it's true. Somebody's been hunting based out there and mowed some grass and actually camping out there during hunting season. And what I found ironic was I actually drove in about a quarter mile to find this, and found the area mowed, quite a large area, and there was 2 campers on the picture. License plates have been gotten, but which brings up the point of, okay, this is an abandoned Polk County gravel pit. Signs are faded, so forth and so on. No chain across the entrance, and no hunting. I don't know if hunting's allowed on this premise or not, which is, if it is, that's fine. But the ruts going to the campsite and past the campsite, I mean, it's been heavily used, and the ruts are this deep. And so as I turned around and I'm leaving, I get stopped by a adjacent property owner, and who are you, and so forth and so on, and introduce myself. And, oh, Mark, yep, I've heard about you, yep, blah blah blah. And I said, so what's going on here? And he goes, it's starting to be a problem, and it's not so bad during hunting season, but he goes, it's actually happening on 4th of July weekend. It's happening at different times of the year where people are camping out there. And it brings up the point of, one, I think for the county, liability.
Mhm.
And secondly, if we're going to open up an abandoned gravel pit, and I mean, this is an area that's very rough. And when it was abandoned, the piles of gravel all over the place, and you can see 4-wheeler and ATV tracks all over the place. I shouldn't say all over the place, but you can see them. And it's concerning, and so that's why I'm bringing it to the board's attention. I know Sheriff was involved in the conversation, and I need to go hold of Rich. At a minimum, I think the county needs to post it,
Yeah.
and also put a chain across that access, because there is nothing there, and so forth and so on. The other item is Garden Valley. And this goes back, I'll throw it back to you under the technology thing. And Minnesota has taken the lead in as far as getting rural fiber optics and internet service, so forth and so on. Garden Valley is like a gopher up in my district, running now lines north and south. Garden Valley came through in our front of our house a year ago. So I go out to happened to be a manager of Garden Valley when they stopped to put signs up just last week. And I asked them, you came through a year ago and I've signed up, and Garden Valley can never find me signing up for internet service. I said, what's the chances of us getting hooked up and signed up? And he goes, well, in the grant application, the cable is basically paid for by the state of Minnesota. One of the rules is that line goes in, and guess what? No service provided for, depending on the grant application, 3, 5, 6 years before service can be hooked up to people. And I'm going, okay, this is the third set of lines that have gone on the north side of 21. Quest, two fiber optics. The first one went in 2015. Still, I call Quest. Can we get hooked up? Nope. We don't have service in the area. Oh, yeah, we put that line in under a federal grant through the state of Minnesota. Why are we allowing in Polk County all of this infrastructure to be put in if the citizens of Polk County can't get hooked up? It makes no sense, and that needs to be discussed at AMC. It's a waste of federal and state money to put this stuff in play. And that's all I'll say on that. There was a third item. No, I covered them. Thank you.
Very good.
I did forget that Warren and I we did canvassing last week.
Oh, yes.
Oh, on the election? Okay, good
But
deal.
no changes.
Nope, everything checked out.
Last Monday, Veterans Day, I attended a veterans program out at UMC. Great speaker, dealing with the women's role of the military over the decades. But good attendance and a nice program. Warren and I had corrections yesterday, and he'll kind of go over some numbers. They're close to a tentative agreement with staff, so that's good. And there was also a consideration regarding a settlement agreement with Pierce Lee Roofing, and that'll be coming here too, probably within the next couple of weeks. Attended Crookston City Council meeting also last Monday. They are having some financial issues, deficit budget. They've contracted a local accounting firm to help them with their financial knowledge, perhaps, and suggestions on agreements. So that'll be moving on, and also concern regarding the parent closing of the swimming pool because of some very expensive remodeling projects. So we'll see where that goes. And then this Thursday, I head down to Moorhead for the Laurel Library meeting. Warren?
Okay, concerning corrections, we had 126 in yesterday. That's getting close to 50 less than what we normally run in regular times. Only 67 of those were from Polk counties, which is about 60%. That's down from usual. 50 were per diem payers, 18 from Monoman, 20 from the U.S. Marshals. Total income from per diems was $130,973, which is above average. Marshal Service contributed 77,000 of that. That's pretty good. Juvenile Center, we had three in the secure section, and we had 6 in the non-secure section yesterday. There's 8 beds in each section there, so we're running about a little bit over half full there. Probation cases, 84 new, 71 closed. As far as employment, We have 6 new officers in the jail, 1 resignation. So we're down to the point where we've only got 1 opening in the jail, which is almost unheard of
That's
in
good.
recent years. We've got only 1 opening in the juvenile center, which is again unheard of in recent years, and 1 opening in probation. So only 3 shortage in the whole department. The concern side of that is, especially in the jail side, staff averages about only 1 year of on-duty work, so they're very young. Budget for next year is 7.221 million. That was approved yesterday. 84. Polk County will pay 89% of that. Total budget's up about 3.76%. And just a comment about on our property taxes. Well, mine went down. The county went down probably almost close to 10%, which is I found almost unbelievable. But there we are. So I
Good.
was pretty happy with those numbers. I would assume that it probably won't make a whole lot of difference in our December 3rd meeting because all the farmers will be in about their land valuations.
Kind of interesting. I see we have ours on December 3rd, and then the city of Crookston has theirs at the same time as the Crookston High School.
On the same day.
Same day, same time.
Well, that's going to detract a little bit from their numbers.
Paul?
2 things. Since you brought it up, the Veterans Day program, first time in a long time I've ever been able to go to a Veterans Day thing, and the kids had one at Fertile, and wow, I couldn't believe it. The place was packed.
Yeah, isn't that?
And
I was there too. So
you were at
no, I was in Fisher.
Fisher, yeah. I just couldn't believe it. The kids put it on, and it was unbelievable. Great program. Good speaker. The speaker talked about the veterans flights she was on. She was a representative she cared for, she was medical support on the flights for the veterans that went. She gave a great talk, and it did. I guess this last year was the first time they took 2 flights, same day, hour apart, and that was cool as can be. So that was good. The other one is then, of course, the Sand Hill meeting. We'll be talking about Stewart later. But the biggest thing that they talked about was ditch 17 and the Sand Hill ditch stuff in the redefining the reviewers in their process, and that should be the end of December or something. They are bringing. They're going to do a review or decide if that's the route they want to go, and they'll bring it to the county if whatever their decision is, and we'll go with that. But otherwise, that was a good meeting yesterday. A lot of information. April does a good job.
It looks like we have Sheriff Tadman on next.
Good morning.
Morning.
Let's here get you set up.
First, we'll run through the October reports. Great. And we'll start out with our document services for October 2024. We had a total of 122 in paid services of 4,147.91. No charge service of 2,680.56. That keeps us busy on that part. For our transport for the month of October, we tallied up a total of 5,968 miles, which came out to be 156 total hours of transport time. We had 4 for the medical facility, and then our in-state was 3,139, out-of-state 1,236. our other counties are 468, and then our federal transports continue to keep busy. I think this is the busiest we've been since we took on the federal transports. Usually I push it away, so thank you. But yeah, this month again is 1,122, and that continues to be up as Commissioner Strandell talked about that. So, and then this is just showing the transports and our deputies who did the transports and the hours they put in on those transports. So, and so for our dispatch center, we had a total of calls for the month of October, 2,457, with 693 of those being emergency, and then a total of 1,764 non-emergency through the dispatch center. That's just showing the calls for service on that. And then our calls for service throughout the county through the month of October. We had a total of calls is 924, assist agency 14, our civil process, excuse me, and 274. We had a emotional distress 4, domestic violent we had 4, with 3 of them being violent. And thank goodness we didn't have anything big coming up with our hunting season. We had a medical or a injury accident, but nothing.
Nothing too serious,
Huh?
Nothing real
Nope,
serious.
no, nothing with guns, just a fall accident that happened out there that they dealt with. Another individual fell on an individual as he was climbing up the stand and lost his grip and fell backwards on an individual. So our assist agencies, we had, I said 14. Okay, juvenile complaints, we had a total of 8. Motorist assist, we had 25, and then our motor vehicle accidents, we had a total of 20, and 18 of those being property damage. Public assist, 27. Reckless drivers, 9. And then school patrol, 108. And that's morning and afternoon or when they're available. And then our special activity persons and vehicles, we had a total of 16 there. So all in all, there was kind of a large range of things going on in October, but traffic stops 208. And that would be about it. Vehicle complaints, you see there's 8, and then 2 reports of vulnerable adults. So again, with the totals of 924 for the month of October.
Where do cell phone usage, which category do they fit under?
That's just going to be underneath traffic. It doesn't
Okay.
signal out. We could run those to see if they're on that, but it's just all involved in the traffic stop. If it's a traffic stop for that, speed, careless, reckless, it comes into that. So yeah. So any questions, concerns on that? Okay, next item that we'll go to is this is backup dispatch center project in East Grand Forks. And we kind of been talking about this for years on this, and we have been working on this for the last 2 years after receiving some available ARPA funds that we could put towards that. And this is the concern was, it's kind of twofold, is many years of traveling Highway 2. We know how that is going from East Grand. We have 4 of our telecommunicators that are living over in East Grand right now, or Grand Forks right now. We used to have them mostly in Crookston. Now they've changed that way, and our last application was also from there. And when our highways are closed, we have to have a seat in our dispatch center. So if they're not able to make it in, then we have to have the people that are available around Crookston. So we have at this time 4 people that live and reside around Crookston, and then we have 2 more of our telecommunicators that are living. One's way out east, and the other one is just outside of Crookston. So with weather, the other thing is we talked about is that we have a larger group of people to pull from. We also compete with Grand Forks County Dispatch for their jobs and people leaving for that. So with this upcoming funds, I think it's a beneficial for us to do this. If we have something happens in Crookston, we've got a place that's all set up, ready to go work out of, and we can have people working out of there without having to transfer everything over to Norman County or Thief River at that time. So people are able to work out of both things. So we are looking at retaining a couple rooms that we worked with Karen and Sarah and Chuck on trying to arrange some rooms, and we found 2 rooms that will work for this. And it's located on the northeast corner of the social service building, and it's next to a bathroom. And that's the big thing is if it can be close to a bathroom, because how do you answer a phone when you're down the hall? So that's the things that we're working for, and we are able to come up with a plan. And we've met many times with Rick and Josh over there, and also IT to see if this would work. So for the equipment quotes, this is just for the dispatch quotes. As you can see, the Motorola, this is just for the radio and the firewall, that this needs to be hooked up to the state, and it's 104,000 just for the unit and 31 proxy firewall in the state system. The variant system is 7,000, and then that's a 385-year contract and price of 29, so it's broken out over 5 years. The center has to be also hooked up with Central Square system, and that's 1,185.84. And then that's our recorder for that unit over there that sits in there and records all the 911 calls and all the radio backup for coming out of that system of 19,289. So we're still waiting on the total for the startup East Grand Forks answering point was 187,065.47. And looking at other quotes, and we're still waiting for electrical wire workup, which I've got some now that Josh sent over and so I can tell you about that. And then the generator, which would be a standalone generator, not on the same side as the building. So the building runs off of that generator. Ours would be hooked up to ours, so it's not overloading that. The generator's not big enough for all of our.
You don't have a cost for that.
Yep, I just got a estimated cost for that Josh sent over is for the electrical bid switch out, which is moving outlets and hookup generator and a mini split, and then move the card swipes. We're approximately waiting on bid, but looking at about 4,500. The generator is this generic 10K generator that's looking at about $3,900. And then we're looking at a stand for 600 to keep it off the ground. And then the plumber bid to hook up generator only by gas is approximately 500. The mini split that we're looking at purchasing for the air and the heat in there to keep it regulated is about $5,500. And then H&M Plumbing, we're looking at trying to get bids from there, is just a small sink with a water basin for that. So so building materials to do some moving around. Where the old mail room was, it's just not big enough for social service to utilize. Well, we think it should be a little bit bigger for interviews. It's just a little tight for 2 people to get in there. So we were looking at moving, it's a wall that's not used for holding or anything. So we can just move that a couple feet and then take out one door and add a door. So with looking at the sheetrock and everything like that, they're estimating the cost about, and finishing is about 7,000 for that. So, so a total of estimate right now with not waiting on those 2 top bids was 24,420. And the construction and material is going to be used out of our funds and our gun funds for the materials and that. So
How much funding do you have there?
what was the what?
Is that ARPA funding?
Yep, looking at ARPA
How much
funding.
do you have available there?
That's,
That's what we did the resolution for
yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
Be
Yeah,
nice to know what the amount though is.
yeah.
the numbers.
Essentially, the way the way I have it budgeted for next year, but we'll reconcile that if any of it's done this year, is that it's coming out of the public safety fund. Because
Fund balance?
Yeah, because we designated uh, uh, wage data or wage expenses. You used ARPA funds to pay for already incurred wages in the department. So that means that their operating budget basically is different by a million, 1.1 million. It's just the accounting of it. The total ends up the same, but fund balance would end up being used for this from public safety fund, not the general fund. And that's whether it's this year or next year. We did have it designated for ARPA almost what you've said, I think 2 years, and I think it's been right in there for that. What wasn't known was the building modifications.
Yeah.
And once they got into it, there was some additional costs, but I have to agree. I think long term, this is a good investment to have not only a backup, but that other location for the department.
So no, not a big budget concern then.
It's neutral as far as the levy is
Yeah.
concerned. We've got to check on a couple things if we've. It's kind of how we account for it because of what the timing. The end of this year, beginning of next year. I've got some numbers in the 2025 budget for this. But I think I need to reconcile with what he's got up here.
Sure.
I'm certainly open to it, but this does look like a kind of a duplicate. I mean, it was
yeah.
going to be right. I
Yeah.
mean, it would be so.
Yep.
You can,
So we could have our telecommunicators working in East Grand Forks as long in Crookston. They could be on the same shift and still working. They don't have to be sitting right next to each other. This is going to be twofold of that. We've always discussed and had many years of not being able to fill our dispatch center, which is burnout and everything else like that. Well, if we're getting many people from Grand Forks, I can guarantee you no one likes driving that winter. And how do we get them over here? I mean, we have to keep a dispatch.
Either place. They don't have to be sitting next to each other.
No,
You can have one in East Grand and one in Crookston.
Yep.
Doing the same job.
doing the same job. And
Answering the
we've
phone.
looked at that for many years because of the poll, but we've had many people drop out because of that winter driving. And what do you do if they're closed? How do we get them over there if the roads are closed? Then it comes all back on Crookston. And I know that's been a problem. We always said if we had available, we would try to do this. And it just come up with the right time. I know, like we said, is talking with Chuck, this started 2 years ago. You know, we got some available funds. Where do we put it to best it is? So I think, is it a benefit down the road? I really do think it is. I think it's gonna help us retain people. It's gonna help us get people. This isn't the only time we're gonna need more telecommunicators, and it'll come down the road. So, but again, we have one more applicant, like I said, and that was from East Grand Forks. That doesn't make it, but we get a bigger pull from the larger selection there. So
What are you short on quotes right now?
we're looking at those two quotes is for that the generator to come in exactly, and then also the electrical bit, which is switching out the outlets and hooking up to the generator.
Estimate.
Yeah, we have an
Yeah.
estimate of that. So
You would what, have two workstations over there?
yeah, I call it 1.5, but 2 workstations is what our game plan is, and that means if people can't get over there and that shift's on, we can easily put another person on there to help with that. Or if the one person, depends on how the shifts work out. But again, I mean, we got a big county. Again, you're looking at the travel thing, and it's the corridor of, it's not as bad going east because of some of the windbreaks, but we all know what it's like in the wintertime here, so.
And the work entry would be that door on the north side of the building.
Yeah, yep, we can utilize that. Working with Chuck, we had one that was right up front right when you came in, but with the noise and stuff like that, I don't think it was the best. So then working with Karen and talking with Sarah is we just flip flop some rooms back there that we are going to use. We discussed about trying to utilize the back portion of the garage. It used to be called the docking station back there when the old building was there. But the cost to put that into what we have now, I think they were talking just under shy of $100,000 when we had the contractor come in, and I said, no, we can't do that. And
I think that's the right place for it. It doesn't disturb the other portion of the building at all.
it's on the back side, and it's only a single bathroom that's back there. And, the same thing is that we put in our dispatch center here is when the telecommunicator is utilizing the bathroom, they just turn the light on so people can see that it's being used, and when it's off, and it's open for people to go there. We just have to put a little bit more barriers in there and some insulation for the data practices stuff that they're talking about. But the doors will always be closed and not open to public, because public can walk back there. It's a public bathroom, but so is the public bathroom outside of ours. So it's
Sure. Could you speak to like East Grand Forks the police have their own dispatch?
Yeah.
So if somebody from East Grand Forks calls 911, does that come to the county or does it go into East Grand Forks?
It goes to county. We're the answering point for all 911 calls. East Grand Forks or Crookston is not. Yeah, it all comes through us.
Because I know back in 14, somewhere back then on Mother's Day weekend, I witnessed an accident and there was almost a fatality at that accident. Called in on 911 at that time and tried to get a hold of the East Grand Forks Police Department to tell them where we were at, and no, it was always Crookston people, which I had to call in 2 or 3 times, but then also with the Mr. Deline thing.
Yeah.
So I see.
I lived in a bad area, but you live in a bad area for phone use.
I can see where the system and the redundancy of a system can make sense. So
yeah, and like I said, and the great thing is we've always had a portable unit that if our unit goes down in Crookston, we either go to the fire station or we go to East Grand Forks Fire Station or we go to a different one and have to set up, because we still have to receive and dispatch out of there and do it this way. This is already set up and ready to go. You just walk in. I mean, to spend the money which we were looking for at the beginning when we started this project, just for the portable system was $140,000. And that's all it got us, was a portable system. That didn't get us hooked up to the CAD. That didn't get us hooked up to recorder. So we went a little bit on, because then it's a self-efficient running by itself system. For it's a lot of money, but for that portable system that we first started off with and spending 140 just to have something that you pick up out of a suitcase and walk over to a fire hall, I think this way it's far enough away. It's going to save on that travel, and then down the road. So
what are you looking for today?
I would looking for a motion to continue and go
Proceed.
forward with the project, because of trying to order these supplies before the end of the year. It's going to take a while, but I think with ordering them and before we put any holes in the wall, I've been told we need to say we're going forward, or else we're not putting any holes on the wall.
I so move.
Second,
Do we want to have a
a dollar
dollar
amount.
figure for? Are you comfortable with the 187 or?
I'm never comfortable with funds coming in, but I've just got to grab what I can. I guess I'm going to look at that, and hopefully these don't throw us for a loop. But if it does, then when as we're ordering this and stuff really goes haywire and it's not this, then I'll come back to you. I'm not gonna go and spend a bunch of money where it's not gonna work. It falls back on me, and I,
Back to on that point, the 187, does that include your estimates or not?
That didn't include a generator.
that
Didn't
is,
include the generator in that.
nope.
No.
That is separate. The 24.4 estimated is all construction built out. This is just for the answering point equipment in that little dispatch.
Yeah, you're probably at least at the 200,000 figure, I would guess.
You mentioned
So-
using the gun funds.
Yes, and for the construction, I'm looking at the gun fund because they're also, I can utilize it for that. They're the ones that give us the information, do the backgrounds and run all that stuff.
Well,
So
it's nice to have those. It's great to have those funds provided, so we don't have to put this on the levy.
no,
Right.
none of that would come out of
That's
there.
the main thing.
It's already in the
Yeah.
budget for
Yeah. Great. I so move.
All right, and we do have a second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, the next thing I'd like to bring up and kind of just let you know what we're looking at and where we're gonna go is the Foston substation issue and concerns. We've been working at this. It's a beautiful area, beautiful rooms and everything, and I brought Rick and Josh here and Mike also because they've helped work with it, as I believe we're at the end of what we can possibly do to make it workable environment for our deputies in public. During the summertime, our deputies don't want to go in there and utilize it. They don't eat there anymore because of those issues. The wintertime, it's not bad, but the odor and then the flies during the summer. The garage part is beautiful. It holds all of our stuff. It keeps it dry. But we've got to come up with a different thing. I mean, I think it was a great idea at first. I brought Rick and Josh along. They can tell about what they've done, and they've really worked hard to try to get that. But it's come to a point where if people aren't going to work out of there, then what is it sitting there for? We need somewhere we can work out of. And, we try to get our deputies off the roads and tell them to go into an office so they're not sitting out there in the dark or on the side of the road working on their stuff and not paying attention to what's their surroundings. So we tell them to go utilize offices, and it wasn't being used as much back then because we had the other office in Boston, but now that they use it 100%, we're finding more of these issues. So I've talked to Karen and from social service, and she said she has available room in McIntosh. We went over and looked at it. Tri-Valley Probation wants to come in, and they wanted to utilize the rooms out there. And at that time, we're getting back into it. They said they'd like to share some space with us, but there is some available room. There's interview room, there's a meeting room, and there's enough desk space for officers. So we're just trying to find out, and what's your thoughts, because we've got to do something. And I don't know what to do with that available room out there. This is a question with John to try to utilize it, but
Is it one or two rooms out there? I don't recall.
we have a meeting room, and we have a 2-seat computer for the patrolman, a small kitchen, an interview room. Yep, it's beautiful. We have lockers for all of our evidence, for our gear. I mean,
It was supposed to work well.
and it's just not. And we need a place to go. Our biggest thing is if we have to bring anybody in for interviews, victims or anything like that, and we have distractions like that, that's just going against us. And it's not fair to them either. So
We're already renting the McIntosh.
we're already renting the McIntosh building with the space
No
with public,
additional costs there. It's
yep,
just
public health.
moving things over and then.
So
But
what about the Sally Ports?
The Sallyport, the garage.
Yeah,
We'd like to retain that because we keep our boats in there and we keep our EOC in there. Then when we're not using it, and it keeps everything dry, and the guys still use that a lot, but it's
What
It's
about?
usually in the
'cause,
fresh air and
You
stuff.
know, part of that thinking too wasn't that like if you're in the process of booking,
Yes.
you know, that you've got them in an enclosed.
Yeah.
So would that still be used for that then?
No, not for that. Is if we have that over there, and that's the same thing. Because of that, you're having a person bring them in. They're going to complain about that and complain about flies flying around, and now they got to breathe into the intoxilizer. That's the same thing. Is we would move that also, so we would just utilize that area for the garage space for keeping, you know, the boats and that during winter months, and so we can make it work, but
Anything, Richard, you want to add to it? You've probably been out there and tried to make it.
I agree with everything you said as far as on the smell and the flies.
Yeah.
We've exhausted everything we can do with the air system. We put an air purifier, cleaner, and whatnot, tried to offset some of the odors and whatnot. And as far as on the flies and whatnot, well, there could be no flies inside, but you walk in from outside, they'll come in on your body. You know, I mean, it's terrible. You know, it's one of those. I don't know how you get away from it. I mean, just a location with everything that's going on the exterior is
The issue,
really
basically.
very difficult to control what's on the inside. And as far as the Macintosh building, you know, we just remodeled that a few years ago. That's a very nice.
That's
space.
ready to go then.
That'd
pretty
be up
much.
to you, but I mean, as far as the building and all the remodeling.
That's what I mean. We wouldn't need to do a lot of remodeling there, certainly.
Set up his offices.
Where in Macintosh building are you looking? Is it up on the
It's
main floor or the lower? Or?
it's the top floor.
The upper
Top
floor.
floor.
Second floor.
Yeah.
yeah.
North side.
So if you come in on the east side of the building, you just go up that, you know, a few steps, and then you would be up there.
Mhm.
And there is also the elevator there too, you know, if there's
Mhm.
any needs for that.
Yeah, because you can come in the back door and then
Yeah.
go into the elevator.
Then same thing is if we're looking at is this a possibility and going forward, then I would have to meet with the city of McIntosh and the mayor to find out if we can share space with.
I don't
I
see
don't-
there'd
I
be a
don't think they
problem,
would have
but
a
I think
problem.
you could proceed with that.
Yeah.
It seems right. Does that sound okay if they can work something out?
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right, if you two can get together with Chuck and
Do you need a motion?
make that happen.
Just looking for a motion to go forward with. Still looking at it, and I can come back again the second time. I just
Once a final decision is
I
made.
just don't want to continue to
Sure.
bother Karen and Rick
Sure.
and
Is there a
Josh if we're not
motion
going to
for-
look at it.
Yeah, I'll
Move
second.
forward, and wait a second. Any further questions, concerns?
I mean, we have to think about the works area of our employees.
I agree. It's that, and you bring somebody in that has to sit down and
They go,
interview them,
where
and
in
if
the
they're
heck am I?
distracted,
Where am I?
it's so.
Mhm.
So
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Good luck.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's it. I think Karen is up next, and she's got a lot of items for us.
Have to do those one at a time?
Unfortunately, I think we probably do.
Good morning.
Morning.
Said, what's the deal? So. Yep.
All right, so my first agenda item is a replacement of a social worker in our disability services unit due to a resignation. So I'm looking at board approval to fill a social worker position and to fill any internal subsequent position vacancies occurring because of this action.
Is there a motion to proceed?
So moved.
By Mark, second. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joan. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item 2.
Thank you. I am looking for a, due to programmatic changes, would like to request to transfer one registered nurse to position in Polk County Public Health to Polk County Social Services. The position will be assigned to Adult Services under the supervision of Molly Paulsrud. So I'm looking at board approval to fill a social worker team leader position and to fill any internal subsequent position vacancies occurring because of this action.
Is there a motion to proceed?
So moved.
By Mark, I will second that motion. Any other questions, concerns? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Number 3,
We have an agreement for cultural navigation services. We'd like to continue that agreement to provide cultural navigation services to Polk County residents based out of the Family Resource Center in East Grand Forks. Looking for board approval of the agreement with Deca Ollie to provide cultural navigation services in the amount of $15,200 for calendar year 2025.
is there a motion to proceed?
So moved.
By Joan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. Any further discussion? I would point out that Karen has been here earlier for our social service meeting, so we've had an opportunity to review these earlier. But anything else? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, carries. Number 5, I believe. 4.
All right, thank you. Yes, we have a
Getting ahead of myself.
We have a contract with Deed to provide our services under our MFIP and our DWT employment and training program. So I'm looking at board approval of the 2025 contract in the amount of $5,977,000. Sorry, I'm getting all my numbers. All these contracts are a little overwhelming.
This contract really grew.
597,772 with Deed Career Force to provide our employment and training services program. These are state and federal dollars that are transferred through to provide this service.
Is there a motion to proceed?
So moved.
By Mark, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Joan. Any further questions on the deed agreement? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Number 5.
All of our contracts and agreements today will need to be signed manually. None of them are DocuSign.
All right.
It's a switch.
Most of our state contracts are DocuSign now, but these other ones are all manual ones. We have a contract with HSL Consulting to provide our clinical supervision to our adult mental health and our children's mental health team. So I'm looking at board approval of our 2025 contract with HSL Consulting in the amount of $15,300.
So move.
All right. Thanks, Paul. I will second that. Any further questions? Concerns? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Number 6.
We have a contract with Ray of Hope as a consultant to provide reflective supervision and consultation services to our Children's Services Unit. I'm looking at board approval of the January 2025 through December 31st, 2025 contract with the Ray of Hope in the total amount of $6,750.
Is there a motion to proceed?
So moved.
By Mark, is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Warren.
We have an agreement with TriMin Systems. Oh, I'm sorry.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. All right, next.
Excuse me.
Not a problem.
All right, next on our agenda is our agreement we have with TriMin Systems. It's an agency collection system to process our social welfare accounts. I'm looking at board approval of the 25 agreement with TriMin to include an annual cost of $1,700 for the agency collection system.
And this one is county funded, correct?
Correct.
I move.
Is there a second?
Second. Mark. I give up.
Okay. And the collection system, $1,700, so it's the same $1,700.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Thank you. We have a contract with the Violence Intervention Project to provide supervised visitation services to families in Polk County when needed. I'm looking for board approval of our 2025 contract with the Violence Intervention Project.
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
We got 2 seconds, but I think Joan was first. So, any other questions?
I just think it's important
sir.
on all of these to make sure that people are aware that they're state or federal funded or county funded. I struggle with the ongoing amount of state and federal funding that we get in the county. So that's why I just think it's important that it's always stated that this particular one is state funded, correct?
Yes, so this contract is needed, as we discussed earlier this morning, when there's safety issues for our staff to provide supervised visitation when children are placed due to safety issues in out-of-home placement. So it's something that we have to provide. We are able to draw down some of our allocations that we receive from the Department of Human Services to cover this activity for child protection services.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next.
Next on the agenda is our contract we have with Wellness in the Woods Virtual Peer Support Network. This service is a regional service provided virtually to our county, Kitson, Monoman, Marshall, Pennington, Red Lake, and Roseau counties. It is to provide peer support for individuals to support their mental health. This is a contract that is supported fiscally through our Adult Mental Health Initiative, which Polk County is the fiscal host. So I'm looking for board approval of the 2025 contract in the amount of $6,000 to Wellness in the Woods Virtual Peer Support Network.
Is there a motion to proceed?
So move.
And is there a second?
Second.
Second by Joan. Any further questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carried. Number 10.
All right, this is a resolution to accept Crookston Community Fund grant in the amount of $5,000. It's a grant written by Victoria Ramirez, our social service manager, to use these funds to help support the activities at the Polk County Family Resource Center located in Crookston. I'm looking for a motion to approve the resolution to accept the grant award to Polk County Social Services from the Crookston Community Fund in the amount of $5,000. And it'll be distributed to the Family Resource Center to individuals and families use that from November 2024 through December 31st, 2025.
They don't.
I will move to approve that and collect those $5,000 from Crookston Community.
Second.
Any other questions?
They don't have to be Crookston residents though to receive that funds, right?
Correct. They just need to, the money's designated for
The county.
the designated to use in our Crookston Family Resource Center.
Okay.
Most of those people are from Crookston.
Okay. Yep. Great.
Anything else? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
My final agenda item is the board resolution to support Clay County Social Services request in accessing Minnesota bond funds for development of a psychiatric residential treatment facility. They are looking at using their West Central Region Juvenile Center non-secure unit and redesigning that into a facility for the psychiatric residential treatment facility. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the resolution to support Clay County to request Minnesota bond funds for the remodel of the West Central Region Juvenile Center non-secure unit into an 18-bed psychiatric residential treatment facility and address the redesign, design, and construct, furnish, and equip of a non-secure unit within Clay County to replace the existing facility that will become a psychiatric residential treatment facility.
Is there a motion to proceed?
So moved.
Second.
And second by Warren. Any other questions? This is something Clay County's been working on for a number of years, so
Yes, yeah. They have a provider solutions that is willing to provide the mental health treatment program. So it's exciting. I hope it works out for them.
certainly need it.
Yeah.
Anything else? Questions? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. That's it, Karen?
All right, thank you. Good day.
Thank you much. We're a little behind schedule here, but we'll catch up. Board of Managers regarding an appointment. Is there anyone to come on?
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Oh, back in the hot seat.
That's right.
Don't point your finger at me.
This is moved to approve reappointment. I'll make it.
By Warren, is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Once you get somebody in that spot, you don't let them go.
Is that the key? And
Am I assuming that this is the young man we're voting for?
Yes.
Hi, Terry. I'm Paul. Have we met before?
Nope, never met
I'm
you.
Paul.
Nice to meet
Terry, you want to make a few words, few statements?
you. You're behind schedule, so I'll make it really
yeah,
short.
that'd be fine. That'd be fine.
We've had a real busy year. It's been a good year. The permitting is out of the world with 230 plus permits this summer.
That's good.
Cleaning ditches, drainage, field drainage. We're fully staffed. The transition has gone really well from Myron to Tammy with our administrator position. And
Yeah. Myron's still around from time to time?
his wife made him move to the cities.
Well,
They keep them out of the picture.
just curious.
We did retain him.
He worked so well with
I
everybody.
know we did. We retained him
I
for the
talked to
year on
replace.
an
I
hourly
know you
basis.
did. So you did
It
good.
worked out really well. Yeah,
Good transition then.
he was a keeper. Tammy's a good one.
Good.
And, staff we've got now has really been great, and I see no issues. But
Okay.
Just one question and one comment. How many terms have you served?
I've been in for 9, and this would be my 4th term then, so it'd be 12 after this one. So
Okay. And I called up, and I spoke to it at this level, and I called up, I think during the transition from Myron to Tammy and so forth and so on, but it would be nice to be able to get the minutes online a little bit quicker than the agenda. Sometime is on the,
for the previous month,
yeah, and I understand if you don't approve the minutes and so forth and so on, but normally
to get
your
them
board
prior
is,
to the approval.
well, no, once they're approved, get them
So
posted.
you don't get them quickly after our next
I
board
think
meeting?
I was just on line here a week ago, and I think there's 5 months missing.
Really, I haven't looked on there. I'll bring that up. Because
So,
normally they get posted, I'm assuming, after the meeting for approval of the previous.
yeah, and I'm not asking during
No.
the approval, but
after,
once they've been
yeah,
approved to get them
definitely.
online.
I'll bring that
Online.
up.
Because I've heard from even some of my constituents, have you heard, did my permit go through? Well,
Yeah. I'll bring that up because when we meet on Thursday and approve the previous 2 weeks ago, they should be put on, I
Yeah.
would think, very quickly. So it's not a problem, I don't think.
and it could be a problem with my computer too, but I've checked on the county's computer and they're,
We don't have enough time to go there.
yeah. So anyway,
Oh,
just
that's our problem too. It's the computer.
that's-
I'll bring that up. Shouldn't be a problem.
Well, we do
Operator.
have a motion and a second to appoint
Reappoint.
Terry then for another term. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you much.
Thank you much.
Have a good one.
See you later.
Mr. Snyder is in the house.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
I'll get right into it. This will be very familiar for everyone. We just did this a couple months ago.
We did.
Kongsvinger Cemetery in Section 2 of Vester Township. Nothing's changed since a preliminary to final approval, just that the pins have been placed for this final plat. Only thing I'll note is I do have the plat today. I'd like chairman's signature after the proceeding here. Nothing changed other than really the final. This is the official plat. Kongsvinger Cemetery. Again, we're adding 208 grave sites to an existing cemetery just east of their existing burial site there. With that, staff recommends approval of the final plat. Again, I'll need signatures today for recording purposes, but I need a motion for approval of that final plat.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any other questions or concerns?
I would just like to say that Consvinger Church is, and some of the local community country churches are kind of seeing a resurgence. Consvinger, there's a bunch of younger families attending church when probably 15 years ago that church was struggling to keep its doors open. And I know Tabor Lutheran, same thing. There's young families starting to come back, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a beautiful remote site out there.
Well kept, isn't it?
Yes.
Pictures of well-kept church, old church. Did move that dike to the east to accommodate, existing. They were kind of trapped in there with, it is in the 100-year floodplain, but been there a long time. So, hope we don't get anything to take anything away. But they did have to move that dike east of there. Probably about 3-4 years they've been setting up for this plat. So,
Any other questions for Jake? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
okay, apologize for adding this late to the agenda, but had a meeting, final doorstep for the City of Crookston Airport Zoning District. This has been in the works. This is a grant that the city applied for to amend their zoning district, kind of prepping and planning for some different projects out at the airport here in Crookston. Existing zoning ordinance dated back to 1975. And so they were in need of some remedy. Actually took the zoning district and shrunk it down a little bit. I'll kind of just go over the map. I'm not going over any of the 30-page document of their ordinance they have set up here. But the maps basically picture yourself in a college stadium, a sports venue of sorts, as far as zoning and land use goes. What happens is this is the airport centered in the middle, and the zoning district extends over. Zone A's are these blue. Of course, those are where planes are anticipated to be coming up, down, all around. Yellow is safety zone B. That is really just a visionary thing for pilots coming in and out. And then the purple area is just kind of that buffer zone around that safety zone, zone C. As you see in this part 77, the diagram, the height restrictions are increased as you move away from runways and as you move to the side of the runway. There are 3 existing parcels and homes that are in this zones. There's one actually right off of a kind of a safety zone. Everything they've grandfathered them in through the ordinance. There should be no issues with the smaller farm style ag buildings and residential properties. Some of the things, the only real thing, the only kind of outlier is campgrounds, those types of things are totally restricted in those zones. It can't be established in there. So as we do zoning in that area, we do couple our zoning with Crookston Township because we do joint permitting with the township there, as well as the city of Crookston, since they are the owners of the airport. They have to sign off on any permit that would be in that airport zoning district. Very similar to how we do Foston's zoning district and in the city of Fertiles, which they've both redone in the last 5 years. So that's all I got. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention. This is on the final doorstep. They're looking at recording this with the county to make it official that this is the new zoning ordinance for the city of Crookston Airport zoning district. So I'm just looking for a motion to basically approve the zoning ordinance, and it is the city's zoning ordinance. I'll remind the board, it's theirs to enforce. And so we're just a partner in that process because we do the permitting for structures around there.
Question, in this whole redoing of the zone, or updating, I guess, was there ever any discussion about fencing around the airport?
I don't recall any in the meetings. I'm on the joint, the powers board that kind of just took it from step A to step Z, and I don't remember anything about fencing out there.
Well, currently, fencing wouldn't be a requirement of the FAA for security purposes, but if Crookston would ever get regional air, then the fencing has to be part of that requirement for TSA and security. So.
Yeah, and wildlife is a concern around Foston's. They actually fence theirs for wildlife coming in. Pretty open country, minimal wildlife, and so they didn't choose at this time to do that. Okay. Now, with projects they might have planned in the future in their 10-year plan, they might be required to do that based on what they're trying to bring in for planes.
Would there have to be an amendment to this then?
No, they would just have to do that to comply with FAA regulations.
Okay.
Yeah. There wouldn't be any zoning ordinance amendments to their ordinance. So.
Just for the board's information, a lot of the requirement of the blue is because of instrument approaches onto that airport. The zones have to be clear of a lot of obstacles. So per FAA.
Yep, and the higher things, cell phone towers, those types of things, strictly prohibited based on how high they have to be in that zone. So that's really what they're trying to do, is not have this obstacle pilots need to meander around to get into a safe landing zone. So, and they're looking at redoing some runway stuff. So this ties into their grant that they're going for. So.
Is there a motion to approve the City of Crookston Airport zoning ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Third.
Any further questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Can I grab your signature real quick?
Sure, we'll do that. Graduate.
Don't mind all.
Sheriff
as well.
Good idea.
I'm going to give you the mouse. You can just scroll up
Yeah.
and down the show.
Thank you.
Where do you want to?
Use this pen.
Oh, that's right.
only two, I think. Here, I'll just wait.
That'll do it.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Okay, go ahead.
Good morning. So Gary and I met about this property, it was over a year ago now, I believe, at RBJ's when it was still open. This must have been the conversation that shut the restaurant down. But Mr. Steer, this is in Brant Township up in northwest Polk County. It's right on the Polk-Pennington County line. Jeff Steer is here today. Too much feedback? Jeff Steer is here today. Wanted to attend the meeting,
Okay.
listen into the conversation. We've been in touch with him for a number of years about this property, and he is interested in selling it to the DNR as part of a 1031 exchange to acquire some other land elsewhere. It's a quarter section, 160 acres, adjacent to an existing tract of state property up in Brant Township. Currently, all of it is enrolled in the Conservation Reserve Program. It's been enrolled, I think this is the second enrollment for all of it. Contains part of a public waters wetland that continues on to the wildlife management area. And we are here today to seek a resolution for the DNR to acquire this property to become part of the Pembina Wildlife Management Area. I can talk a little bit about the PILT. So based on the county's, it would be the 2023 valuation for the property taxes that were paid this year. PILT at 0.75% of the county appraised value would actually be slightly higher than what the landowner is currently paying in property taxes. Slightly, like $20 a year more, but it's very comparable. And I'm happy to answer any questions folks have.
Emily,
Go ahead.
if you could just scroll it up, we have the resolution on the page before this.
We can add that
Go the other direction.
the parcel is, not really landlocked, but it's landlocked for others to access. So one of the difficulties for the landowner was trying to find another entity to purchase it and then have to cross, other private land. So it was, the state became, one of the more important options for Mr. Steer. And so it's been ongoing for a while. So just want to make that clear.
And not getting into the dirty details of the purchase price, approximately, is it within the range of 15% either way of the assessed value on the property?
So we in the field office are not provided with the appraised value information. That's not given to us. So I don't know. Mr. Steer knows.
Yeah, it's a data privacy thing. So between our appraisal department and the landowner, we're not, we don't see that information to answer.
The appraisal that was done is done by a third-party contractor, and they take into consideration comparables. So recent sales in the area. So that's what it is based off of.
Where I'm going with it is not in this particular chunk of land, but in other sales that have happened. When I hear the word 1031 exchange, we've some, not in this area per se, but other areas of Polk County where farmland has changed hands for significantly over the value of the property, which is adversely affecting the township value and raising the assessed values accelerated over their normal case. And a lot of these are private investors, land investors that are jacking up the price because of the option of 1031. And I understand Mr. Steers' need and want as when I get ready to sell farmland, the 1031 exchange is available. It's a wonderful thing for the property owners, but unfortunately, it also escalates the sales price, especially to those who don't have a touch on the land and or family basis to the land under the 1031 exchange. And we've seen appreciation in the county quite on the assessed values quite a bit because of that exchange rate. And I hope that's not the case here, that there's some limits in that range. So
Yeah, all we could say is that it's the appraised value that's being offered seems like it's within the, it's based on everything else that's going on in that area. So there wasn't any indication that this was an unusual sale that it was that we're aware of. So for what that's worth, I guess.
And I assume in this area that's not the case, but
yeah, the type of land in that area is not extremely high value because of its location to the wetland systems and the soils.
So then, once you purchase this land, is there going to be other land that you own that will be going up for sale?
I think we have just a couple small parcels that I think last time we approached for the one other acquisition, there hasn't been any additional parcels that have been identified. Just a couple small, I think I mentioned last time, when the state looks to dispose of a piece of property, it's very strategic anymore. We're very strategic in acquiring properties and strategic in dissolving of property. And so I think it was less than, what is it? It's less than 10 acres or something. So it's a small.
It's a bit higher, it's bigger than that.
Yeah, so the one parcel is very small. Anyway, yes, so we're not looking at dissolving of any other parcels at this point in time. And that's ongoing. We look at, it's kind of a moving target. We look at parcels at times periodically, and right now there's nothing that we're going to add to that list.
The blue shaded area on the map, is that open for public currently?
It is.
Hunting, deer hunting?
All types of
Yes.
hunting and trapping.
Pretty much any kind of access.
Camping?
Camping by permit only.
Most wildlife management areas that are smaller, we don't permit campings unless there's an area that makes sense. Because of history says people will often discourage you when they make a campsite there for hunting, for example, they discourage others from using the spot. So state laws are designed to make it available to everyone and not preempting. So the site doesn't have any campsites on it.
I mean, the good thing is it's not an isolated tract of land that's a half mile to the north or to the west. I mean, this overall makes sense.
You're right. Yeah, there's
directly adjacent.
There's road access to the corner of this the existing property, and it's just a half-mile walk into which is very common for a lot of our parcels. It's, again, it, for us in natural resource concerns, it adds the remainder of that marsh system into public ownership for, it's obviously protected by state law, but it's always an interest for us to be able to manage that marsh system as an intact system versus it always having to go to another adjacent landowner for management purposes. So it's a benefit to the public for that reason.
Is there a motion to pursue?
Steer had his hand up.
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, if you're concerned about the purchase price, they're not paying enough. But just to go to that, I'm purchasing property a mile from this for more than I'm getting payments. If that eases your mind.
Appreciate that.
Might I also just add
Sure.
a bit of information with regard to PILT? So last year in 2023, there was an update to the PILT laws, change in legislation. Especially applicable to Polk County is, a situation like this is that PILT can never be lower than the initial appraised value. So even down the road, if the county should assess the land lower than it was for what it was purchased, it cannot go lower, but it can go higher. So that was updated last year.
Okay. Well, looking for a motion to proceed.
So moved.
By Mark, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Warren. Anything else? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Proceed. Okay, discussion of Marshall Polk Rural Water System Territory.
Yes, can you hear me okay? Okay, very good. I do have some booklets to.
Going to make an adjustment here, I think.
I do have a booklet to hand out. Do you want me to do it now?
Sure, go ahead.
It is. It's just some general information, some maps and stuff of what we're going to cover today in that booklet for your future reference if you ever have questions or anything like that.
Good.
My name is Jason Hillman. I'm the manager of the Marshall and Polk Rural Water System. I've served as manager since January 1st of 2010 when our longtime manager, Larry Murphy, retired. Prior to that, I worked as an operator. Worked in the treatment and distribution system of Marshall Polk Rural Water since 1995. Also here with us today, I'd like to introduce our board members. Mike Kosowski, he is up on Teams. He was the guy that was just on the screen. We have Jason Stordahl and Dan Driscoll here. They're both directors from the East Grand Forks area, along with Jerry and Nick Frigolo from Frigolo Engineering, our engineers. So thank you for giving us the time to speak.
Sure.
Some general information. Marshall Polk Rural Water System was organized by the District Court on July 26, 1973, in accordance with Minnesota Statute 116A. The distribution for Marshall Polk was built in 1976, and we began pumping water in 1977. Purpose of providing quality potable drinking water to residents in Marshall, Polk, and a small portion of Kitson counties. In 1976 and completed in 1977, the original system served 605 users. Since that time, there have been several system expansions. Currently, the Marshall and Polk Rural Water System serves 1,571 rural users, along with the cities of Oslo, Alvarado, and Fisher. Our distribution system is made up of approximately 950 miles of pipeline, ranging in size from 1.5 to 8-inch line, all PVC pipe. Our first expansion was completed in 1981, which added 2 new wells in the Euclid area and another reservoir number 7 in that area. 1988, new users were added throughout our distribution system. And in 1992, a new water treatment plant was constructed at our Radium well site, which is about 8 miles east of Warren. And another well was drilled out at that. In 1998, we added the city of Alvarado and some other rural users. 2000 brought the Florian expansion, which added 190 miles of new pipeline, and along with reservoir number 8. In 2004, they changed the arsenic level from 50 parts per billion to 10 parts per billion of the maximum contaminant level, which placed our Euclid well site out of compliance along with the city of Fisher. So that's what started our 2004 expansion when we added the city of Fisher with some more rural users at that time. Right now, we have 2 water sources that we use primarily. Our Radium well site, we have 2 wells out there that were drilled in 1976. One is 172 feet deep. The other is 197 feet. In 92, a third 8-inch well was installed at 419 feet deep. Together, these wells can produce in excess of 500 gallons per minute. And in 1992, our 500 gallon per minute iron removal treatment plant was constructed on this site. Our Schuster well was purchased in 2004 as part of our Florian expansion, or as part of our Fisher expansion project. This was an existing 16-inch well that is 375 feet deep. The test pumping on this well produced 1,700 gallons per minute, although we only pump 500 gallons per minute out of this source. So it's a very good second source. There's no treatment necessary for this water. All we do is pump it out of the ground and pump it into our distribution system. So it's very good source. Our Euclid well site was moved to an emergency backup supply in 2004 because of it being out of compliance with the arsenic levels. The Department of Health did allow us to keep it online and use it as an emergency backup supply, which we have not had to do in the past 20 years. As far as our water quality, we're complying with all aspects of the Safe Drinking Water Act, which is enforced by the Minnesota Department of Health. We have telemetry, which we can monitor our system 24 hours a day, alarms that call us if there are any issues, and operators on call where you can actually speak to somebody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I guess if there are any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. If not, at this time, I'd like to invite Jerry Pribble, our engineer, to speak. He's served as Marshall Polk Rural Waters engineer from, I believe, somewhere around 1985, Jerry. So he's got a little bit more in-depth knowledge of our system than I do, and has engineered most of our expansions. He's done a very good job. Thanks to Jerry, we have a very strong system. So I turn it over to you, Jerry.
Like Jason said, I'm Jerry Pribble. I'm a civil engineer, land surveyor. I've worked for Marshall Polk for 38 years. I worked on 4 expansion projects, so I'm pretty familiar with our capabilities. And Jason has told you about all our capabilities, and so we're very capable. The reason we are here is that we are trying to. We were at the hearing down in Moorhead that when the other district was created, and we were concerned that the new district was encroaching on our service area, and we expressed that thought to the judge, and the judge made the decision to go forward with the order, subject to us working this service area agreement up. So what I'm going to deal with you right now is talk to you about our service area. And I don't know if you can put the map up there on the screen. That map is a good one, yeah. Except if you could shrink it a little bit. Okay, so the map on the screen is what we always have and always will consider as our service area. Presently, Marshall Polk Rural Water System serves 1,571 rural users, and 881 of those users are your constituents. So they are your constituents. 676 are in Marshall County, and 13 are in Kitson County. Marshall Polk provides water to also the cities of Alvarado and Oslo in Marshall County, and the city of Fisher in Polk County. There are 7 directors on the board, 4 from Polk County, 3 from Marshall County, and none are from Kitson County. All board members are appointed by the board, by the county commissioners from within the county that they live in. There are no county commissioners on our board. So we have users. They're primarily rural people that have brought the system into existence. And a lot of them have been there forever. I mean, we've only had 19 board members in 50 some years. So they're very committed to what we do. In 2024, which is this year, Marshall Polk Water System conducted a survey to determine how many home residents in our service area that would be likely in a potential expansion project. And they show up on this map as red dots. So you can see that the scale is a little bit small, but those are the people that came back in our survey of they would be interested in hooking on to Marshall Polk Rural Water System. There was 93 property owners that were potentially interested in receiving water from the Marshall Polk Rural Water System. 80 of these 93 are located within the blue area of the map, which we consider our service area. The red dots show them where they are in and around the Crookston area. I'd like to point out that the Marshall Polk Rural Water System has sufficient existing capacity to provide water to these rural users right now. To go forward, the Marshall and Polk Rural Water System would contact the landowners that have expressed interest through the survey to see if they would commit to a water user agreement. The agreement would include the understanding that the project would go forward only if there was sufficient commitment in the area to construct an affordable project. And you understand that rural water is entirely voluntary. It should be noted that to our surprise, we were told by some of those surveyed that we have already expressed that they had already expressed interest when the Marshall Polk Rural Water System did a survey in 2020. One resident kept the survey letter that he received and sent the copy back to the Marshall Polk Rural Water System, wondering how many times do I have to tell you? The letter was signed by Stephen Slick of AE2S and Neil Breidenbach of the East Central Rural Water District, a water system in North Dakota. This letter demonstrates that these entities collaborated to promote their interest within the Marshall Polk Rural Water System service area, without our knowledge, by the way. We leave any speculation to their motives to others. We're not going to.
The letter's in the back of the book.
So to understand how we got to this place and why we're here, to be honest with you, we'd rather not be here, but we are, because it's necessary to explain Marshall Polk Rural Water System's interaction with the city of Climax. It explains how we got to the point where the Marshall Polk Rural Water System is now forced to defend our boundary of our longtime undisputed service area. To be clear, it is important to note that the Marshall Polk Rural Water System has always have been willing and able to provide excellent water to the city of Climax. On two separate occasions, the Marshall Polk Rural Water System provided proposals to the city of Climax to bring rural water to Climax. The first proposal was in 2001. The city rejected the proposal after they received notice that they were eligible to receive a 100% grant for a small experimental reverse osmosis pilot plant to treat their water. It is the Marshall Polk Rural Water System's understanding that this treatment system worked reasonably well in the beginning, but without the necessary maintenance, it became less and less effective. So in 2018, the Marshall Polk Rural Water System provided a second proposal to provide affordable, excellent quality water to the city of Climax, which this proposal included a 200,000 gallon water storage reservoir with a pump house to be located within the city limits of Climax. The reservoir would have eliminated the requirement to maintain a water tower. It would have provided fire protection to the city residents, and it would have located an 8-day water supply within the city limits. In 2018, the total estimated construction cost to install the necessary lines and the underground storage reservoir was $1.2 million. At this time, the city may have been able to finance the project with very low interest money too. This may have been the best opportunity for Climax to hook up to rural water affordably. The Marshall Polk Rural Water System has for 17 years interacted with the city of Crookston. It is clear that they were, in our 17-year interaction with the city, it is clear, it indicates that they were in our service area. Why would we interact with them for 17 years if they weren't in our service area? So that explains how we got to the problem or not serving water to Climax. I want to talk about competition between rural water systems. Generally speaking, competition over a public water service area is not good. It encourages the marketing and promotion of one utility over the other. This usually causes the end users to pay more for service. All public water systems in our area are not for profit. All have safe, pure water. All need to balance their yearly budget. When a system aggressively pursues more and more customers, it is an indication that they need to do so to balance their own budget. To realize the greatest potential income, they usually pursue large users and large commercial users. It costs too much to serve the sparsely populated rural area, therefore they get left out. The Marshall and Polk Rural Water System was started by rural residents to serve rural residents, and they will always continue to be our top priority. Not commercial users, not small cities. We serve the rural folks in the outlying areas. In the end, cost will determine if a homeowner asks to be hooked up to rural water. That's the whole end of it. There are two costs to involve. The installation cost, which is basically the same for everybody. Nobody gets a break from the contractor. It's the same cost. Whoever the bid is the same. The other cost is the cost of the water used. Typically, rural residents are few and far between. They also typically do not use a lot of water. If truly you are a rural water system, you will have a significant number of low volume users. And in order to balance your budget, you will need to charge a higher rate per 1,000 gallons. And that's why we do. Conversely, if a water system targets potentially high users, the system must aggressively keep expanding to continue to offer low rates. Eventually, when they run out of large expansion users, they will have to raise their rates to the cost of their production because they have to balance their budget too. So we're not taking advantage of anybody by charging more per 1,000 than the other user. In the end, there is a finite market, and you will have to eventually raise your rates to those that were enticed to hook up onto your water system if you offer cut rate water rates. If it is feasible, the Marshall and Polk Water System services all of Polk County residents, which are all your constituents, not just a couple cities and a bunch of people in Norman County. I'm kind of elaborating there. I must keep on the track here. They provide Marshall Polk water at affordable rates. The Marshall Polk water system does not cherry pick large users. The Marshall Polk's average monthly bill is approximately $50 a month or $1.70 a day. That cost is very reasonable and affordable for anybody. So we don't have to undercut our competitors by offering a low rate, because if you can't, that's one candy bar a day to have clean, pure water, and that's what we charge. The Marshall and Polk water system cannot sell water at the same cost as a North Dakota water system that has been receiving 75% cost share grants from the North Dakota State Water Resource Department. They have used this water to improve their water treatment plants and to construct large distribution lines up to the Minnesota border. The argument that no North Dakota cost share money is being used to benefit Climax is just not true. Strategic water improvements made on the North Dakota side of the river are bringing excess capacity to the state line. So my last page is in summary. I'll tell you some things that the Marshall and Polk rural water system does not do. We do not entice potential users with low rates to get them to hook up to us. We don't bottom feed. We don't pursue expansion out of our service area. We stay in our lane. We don't go out of our area. We don't send questionnaires to landowners in other people's districts to see if we can entice somebody to hook onto our system instead of theirs. We don't deceive neighboring water systems, asking them questions to acquire information about their system. We're upfront. We don't depend on a water supply coming from another source. All our water is coming from the blue area. We don't import water. And most importantly, we feel at a disadvantage right now because we do not have a county commissioner on the Marshall Polk Rural Water System Board. And so we're up in front of you when we feel that it's hard to argue our point when some of the people that are going to be making the decisions are sitting on both boards. What the Marshall Polk Rural Water System does do, we have dependable, clean, pure water that's affordable to anybody and everybody and all your constituents. We are the only system that has the immediate capacity to serve all the residents with the red dots. We could do it right now if they wanted service, if they asked for it. And one thing disturbed us is that we have existing services in the area that they're claiming along Highway 75 and south of here. And we have the same ability as anybody else to apply for loans and grants from government agencies as anybody else. So that we don't aggressively seek out money for our own purpose, but we do it if there's genuine interest and need, then we approach the money source. We don't go for the money first and then look for a project later. And I'm going to summarize this whole little presentation I have, that outside interests have worked together to bring North Dakota water into the Marshall Polk Rural Water System service area, and that's undisputable. The Marshall and Polk Rural System has always been upfront to give up. We have always been upfront about our firm objection to give up any area in Polk County to the proposed new water system. We've been upfront. It's just how many times you have to say it and how do you say it. No one should claim to be surprised that the Marshall Polk Rural Water System would and needs to defend its service area. If they are surprised, they mistook the Marshall Polk Rural Water System's civility in the matter for capitulation. We are not capitulation or giving up any of our district. The disputed area, if you can turn the screen on to the next photo, where it has the black on it.
You didn't give me anything else other than that.
It's the third map in your book, if anybody wants to.
I think we can
look at it.
PDF3.
It's not in the packet.
It's PDF 3. It's in the packet.
Not on the. online packet.
Okay, it's in your report.
It's this one.
Okay.
Shows the red dots.
It shows the black.
Okay.
Black.
Kind of towards the bottom.
Okay,
Yep,
you
that's
got
the
it.
one. Yep.
Okay, so
Just before you go, Mr. Pribula, just so you know, we've gotten some inquiry from offsite about the amount of paper that they're hearing. It's affecting the viewer's ability to hear Mr. Pribula. So
okay.
if you can hold off on the folding and the unfolding of the paper.
Okay. So that's fine. But you're looking at it right now, if you're
Right.
looking at that sheet. And so the dark area that's shaded is the disputed area. We claim that area and they claim it. That represents 21% of our area. They're trying to acquire 21% of our service area. And that's the area of dispute, is the area that's hatched in black. So, therefore, after Climax hooked up to the North Dakota water system, the Marshall Polk water system removed the area south of Polk County 1 from its service area. We gave it up. There's no sense fighting over something that's a done deal. The Marshall Polk Rural Water System feels that they have been more than reasonable by voluntarily giving this up. We didn't have to. The Marshall Polk Rural Water System stands for Marshall and Polk area, and that's the area we have always served, and we continue. But to remove the argument of who gets to serve Climax and who gets to serve anybody south of Climax, we voluntarily gave it up. We feel that any further encroachment would adversely affect your other 881 residents that are presently in the Marshall Polk Rural Water System, for the reasons we explained what competition does. The Marshall Polk Water System will always do right by its existing and future members. If the Marshall and Polk Rural Water System cannot retain its surface area that is depicted on this blue map, they will be forced to appeal the ruling by the court. And that's not a threat, I guess. It's just a fact. It's an option. And we would ask you to please recuse yourself from making any important decisions on this matter if you serve on both the Polk County Commission and the East Central Water Board. It's hard to serve two masters. You have to pick one over the other. And we feel you represent the 881 rural users instead of the 9 that show up south of that County Road 41 line. If you want, that's 100 to 1 if you want to pick your constituents. And I'm just going to end it to note that the judge made the order subject to the service area boundary being worked out without going to court. He asked us to do that. The judge did not say the line could be soft, gray, or fuzzy. She said, set the line. And our line, we're drawing in the sand, is County Road 41.
Can I make one last point on the map you're looking at there? If you look towards the top of the black area, like right up here towards the very top, the area that's being claimed there is about a mile away from our main water treatment plant and well field.
And that's a pretty arrogant map, to go within a mile of our main treatment plant, claiming it to be their service area. I don't think they fully intended to service some of those people. I think they fully intended to take everything they possibly could. They went all the way down to Comstock, Minnesota. One thing they did do is they avoided the conflict with the city of Moorhead because they were a bigger dog than us. And so they backed off. We entertained we engaged with them to negotiate that same let's talk about it agreement. They said it's too late to talk about it. We're going to court, or we're going to the court to get what we want. And we felt, we felt there again, we've tried to act civilly and every time we've approached, but we don't feel we can capitulate anymore. And we feel we are hurting your 881 constituents that are already being served, because if we can't grow to our full potential, we'll have to keep a budget that we always are very careful to set. We always never overspend, but we would have to increase our budget and our rates eventually if we can't grow. One thing you should know too is that not one penny of our budget comes from anywhere other than our water rates. We haven't asked for any. The reason we didn't ask for the same grant money is that, first of all, we didn't know it was available. And second of all, we're not very familiar with begging or asking for free money. And we're busy. We're busy trying to run our water system, not expand into other people's area. And I think you've heard enough from me, so I will be quiet.
Any others that would like to make a statement?
Your line initially went all the way to Polk County 1?
Our line goes all the way to Eldred.
Were you saying that it initially went all the way down to Polk County 1?
No, that's the area we propose to serve with the lines. We progressively grow out.
Oh, I see.
But we had enough water to service Climax, which if we had enough water to serve Climax, we can serve all those red dots. But the problem is it's not easy because they're so far and few between. If we would have been able to serve Climax, we would have put the aggregate together and it would have been more affordable for the rural users. But that's water over the river. And we're only muddying the water by bringing that stuff up. And we're not doing that. We just want to preserve what's left over.
Mr. Pribula, questions? First of all, disclosure, I'm a Marshall Polk water user, and my dad was on the original get signatures. He wasn't on the formation board, but he went out, and for years, our farm was the last farm, and thank God my dad had the foresight to quit hauling water from East Grand Forks, so forth and so on, back in the day. That all being said, Mr. Pribula, most of the main lines are approximately what diameter, 6 or 8 inch, you said?
Our largest line is 8 inch, and we serve the communities of both Alvarado and Oslo with one 8 inch line. With some ground storage in each city.
Approximately, what's the cost per mile? Today's cost of?
After COVID it's gone way up, and it hasn't gone down half as fast as it went up. But I can't answer that.
50 to 70,000 is the range, possibly.
I would think you're probably looking somewhere around $12-15 a foot.
And most of, like our house is serviced with an 1.5 inch line. What's the Marshall Polk's hookup fee, and how does that all function and work?
What happens is when we do expansion projects, people will lay low and they won't sign up because they think if we get a line by them, they'll get a cheaper deal in that. But we have a minimum connection of?
$10,500 is our assessment right now. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,500. 10,
And that's to pay for all the things that got the water there, the treatment plant, the permits, the trunk lines. And so we try to make it fair to everybody that it's most cost effective if you don't lay low, if you come forward with your neighbors and there's 3 of you and you're 3 miles away, we can get there. Our rule of thumb used to be we'll go a mile to get to you. We'll go 3 miles if there's 3 people together. Or we even gone some exceptions when we've seen the red dots that they won't sign the waters agreement. We know sooner or later they're going to come to us for water, but we are not allowed to oversize our lines by rural development. They say, you know, and they say you can't water livestock either with rural development grant money, because we tried that up at New Fulton. There was a dairy farm. And so if you want that source of money, if you don't have North Dakota State Water Commission money, you have to work within the rules and the guidelines. And the problem with what we have is serving people with grant money is people just, their incomes are just too high. And there's also, that was our problem in Climax. Their average income was too high to, but in the end, $1.2 million looks awful darn cheap to have fire protection, good water, and 8-day supply on the ground. But that's at the lower installation price too, before COVID. So it's not fair to compare that now, but it's basically just telling them I told you so. And there's no point in that.
And just for the boards, I've researched Marshall Polk. I had Michelle Cody dig up information back when we first got the proposal from the city of Climax on the formation of Marshall Polk, how the process is going to function and work, especially when it went to the West Central Development Water District concept, so forth and so on. I'm very versed in a lot of this, and I've spoken to this board numerous times about the map, especially the zone north of Crookston, and I even indicated, some point south of Crookston, we need to reach out. And some of the feedback I've had from a few is, well, why didn't Marshall Polk come forward earlier? Well, I think you're hearing from that board that they're a very conservative group. They don't overbuild their systems. They are primarily a rural server. They don't want to necessarily service cities and so forth and so on, and basically want us to kind of stay close to home. And unfortunately, and I've said it publicly before, the West Central concept, even though it was my motion to bring the water across from the city to the city of Climax, and the addendum to that motion, and so forth and so on, I'm still in favor of the West Central development, but their whole business plan is based on a bunch of free money and grant money. And they're already, what we were presented on November 2nd, I think it was, in 21, the original map wasn't even close to what was presented to the court. And I got copies of it with me. And they already said that they would run water with East Central to the city, water to Crookston by the winter of 20, or to water to Crookston by the winter of 20, or to Climax by the fall of 22. So they're already behind schedule what was presented to the county board when we gave them ARPA funds. And I think you can toss this football back and forth, and I commend them for coming in. And like I said, I've made the arguments to this board when we've seen potential map areas. Joan and I have had conversation about even out in her district, this map is going to limit even somebody from Beltrami County. If there's ever a consideration of a zone or a new water district starting out there, bringing water into eastern Polk County. And that's my concern. Mr. Perbula didn't really answer the questions, but an 8-inch line, I've been told by another gentleman, roughly $65,000-$70,000 per mile. Well, when you start adding up the mileage to service way out in Grove Park Township, you're looking at a significant millions and millions and millions of dollars. And unless it's a big grant money project from the state of Minnesota or the federal government, it's not going to happen. And I think we got to get back to the basics and do what the judge ordered the county board to do, is define this map service area. And Mr. Strandell and Mr. Whiting, is when I've questioned it about, well, it's really not it's a fuzzy line. No, it's not. It's a definitive line, a definitive service line that will be defended. And my position is, if this was reversed, I would be making the same argument if West Central was Marshall Polk water. Marshall Polk wanted to expand all the way down to Comstock. I would be making the same argument. Let's take care of we'll call it the war zone. It's a political tug, and
I would point out that it's not a hardship to anybody to award us our service area this line. We don't care about Neilsville. We do care about the people south of County Road 41, but we had to give up something because we knew we weren't going to get all we want. So we feel we've given up enough already. All as we want is service 80 rural customers that they don't want. It's not unreasonable to grant our wish and let them go their way, and we'll be happy. And they'll be happy. Unless they want our 80 customers, and I cannot figure out why they want our 80 rural users. So I guess I don't anticipate you folks making a decision today, and I don't relish the thought of having to argue over it again and again with the other side. But when you're sitting on both boards, it's hard to win an argument. When you've kind of already made up your mind, I wouldn't be on that other board unless I didn't think I was getting the right information. And we just gave you different information today. And it is information from our point of view. We don't chase cars. We don't go out of our way to make trouble. But you know what my dad said, you got to get that kid away from that dad before he learns how to chase cars. And that's what's going on here. People are adopting the policies of others. We don't do that. And the last thing is, my mom told me when I was 16, you can never get in trouble telling the truth. And I hope I don't get in trouble by telling the truth today, as I see it. There's always a difference of opinion out there.
Well, thank you for the complete information here too. Appreciate that.
There is a history too in there of our system and stuff.
Yeah, and all your committees and. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Richard Langlos is up next. Sorry, we're running a little late, but
all right.
You have a maintenance position.
I'll have two actually.
Oh,
I got
okay.
two guys, two long-term guys. My most experienced fellows are going to be retiring here in the first quarter of 25. Yeah. So I guess we'd like to look at starting working on filling those positions. It's going to take a little time. We're going to be trying to find somebody with some skills and whatnot. And this way, if we can get somebody in the system, we'll start getting them trained up, and before we lose our guys. And the two fellows would be Dave McDonald and Rick Baskerville. That'll be retiring here.
Well,
Any questions?
I would move to allow you to proceed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next time you better take some more time when you come here.
What's that?
You need to take some more time when you come before us. No.
Yeah, but he was here earlier.
Yeah, he's been here for long enough, at least.
Oh, Mike's been here longer.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Thank you.
Next, I believe, is Ron Dennison.
I don't know if he's coming in or not, but here he is.
Sorry, we're running a little late.
It's still good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah. All right. That's the first item. Just as it says there, it's just an official motion by the board to remove me as a signature person on any of our accounts out there, any of our bank accounts out there. It's just good to have a formal action by the board, and then we pass it on to the institutions, and they do their thing to see that I'm removed.
Is there a removal and motion and then to put
Replacement?
somebody else on?
Nope.
Oh.
There's no, not that I know of any plan at this time. I imagine Mr. Whiting will take care of whoever's coming on in place.
Okay.
So once I'm gone, it'll be Mr. Whiting and Heather Ellis over there, who's accounting officer and that treasurer function over there.
And this is effective
I made it Friday, December 13th.
13th.
That's one day before I'm actually gone. I'm working that next Monday. And that's exactly what we did with when the accounting officer left earlier this year. And then I thought, well, we don't want them doing anything on that last day anyway. So we'll give ourselves all the way through there just in case. But I actually don't really do any transactions. I'm a backup myself, but yeah.
I understand.
The action today is just to remove you from the signing.
Yeah, just
not anything to do with retirement or anything like that. Strictly to remove you from the.
Is there a motion to proceed?
I'll move.
All right, we have a motion. Did I hear a second?
A second.
And a second. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you. All right, rolling down here now. This is just the next item is just the quarterly interim reports.
Yeah.
Revenue expenditure report. I guess you've all seen it a time or two now. I thought I'd let you tell me if there's anything particular that jumps out that you might want me to speak about. I do have some notes and such on some of the larger ones that I saw that might be of interest.
Why don't you go ahead and cover those and then we can
all right.
Clean up after that.
Okay. Chuck, are you able to make it just a little bit bigger? I have it in paper. I apologize. I forgot to bring my glasses again.
Give me the mouse. The mouse I can.
I'll give you the, yeah. I have it on paper, so, but I guess that, kind of as we scroll down from the top, most of what we have to talk about is going to be here in Fund 1, and they're just kind of some things I thought I should point out. There isn't much in the world of actual overruns in budget.
but there's some things that I think need clarification, I guess. Data processing, you can see a pretty big over in both columns, and that is an invoice that was inadvertently paid twice. We got the money right back, so that yeah, it was receipted back in the following month. So there's no huge overage in expenditures there. I'm talking about line number 62 or department number. Yeah, there's no particular huge over. He's a little over on that Aumentum software, but not to that extent.
And you said that'll show up on the next quarter's.
If you see the
refund will show up.
The refund is there right now. If you look into the receipt column over on the right, that's the refund right there. I mean, that's predominantly it.
Okay.
It's 246,960. Yeah, that's the money coming back in.
That's a big percentage.
Well, 322% was the beginning number.
And then in terms of whether or not that should remain coded as a receipt or be offset against expenditure, I think I'll defer to ABDO experts on that.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, I think that's the right thing to just ask them now. Do we leave that like that, or do we reduce the expenditure? And I think it's the latter, but I guess might as well let the experts say on that.
Sure.
Down then to the facilities. No, I'm going to stop at 102 surveying. 102 surveying GIS. It's just a small on the revenue side in the right-hand column. They did get a significant refund from the state of Minnesota. I can't tell you what it is, but it wasn't budgeted. You know, it's quite a bit more than was budgeted, so I thought I should have something to put on there. The other less significant refunds and reimbursements that they're showing there are in relation to right of way. Whether or not this state one is or not, I can't tell you without doing further looking. But thought I better point out that one because it was just big enough. No,
could that be that grant for the monument markers?
Perhaps it is. I don't know. Kind of like John and Rich Sanders and John Steiner's area right now. I don't have a whole lot on it. I mean, I can actually pull the more detail if you'd like me to make a note and do that, John.
I think it was more than that, but
okay.
Yeah,
should I dig or you good? All right. All right. So next up is facilities. I thought I'd mention they're in good shape on the expenditure side, and that is accurate, both in terms of the spending down of the bond funds and then the general operating stuff. Richard is under budget in the 60% range of, you know, what 75% of the year to go. Over there in our revenue column, you'll see a significant shortfall of revenue, but that is, bear with me just a minute while I get to that page. That is because of it's kind of a change in procedure. Like rather than showing his capital improvement bond money coming in, we're not going to post that receipt because that's money moving around within our own area. And that was budgeted of $1,242,000 was what the bond money revenue was going to be. And it's not going to be posted. That's why that one looks like that. He also is not going to get the revenue from, or hasn't yet taken any American Recovery Plan Act. He's not going to get it, I'm sure, at this point. That was budgeted at $290,000. So those two items are explaining, you know, a significant shortfall in the revenue column for that. All right. I was going to go now to appropriations number 125.
Yep, I was looking at that.
Okay. And that is both revenue and expenditure. It's the state grant money that comes in and goes to the soil and water conservation districts. And so there's no budget for that revenue. And the full budget for the disbursement isn't there either. So that relates directly to the money that goes to East and West Polk from the state. We haven't been putting in a revenue number or estimating the disbursements for all of that. Make sense?
First I've heard of it, but
okay.
I know it's in and out, so it's all right.
Okay, what am I going to say? Now, on allocated 149, I wanted to mention just two things. One, I put the deed tax down as its own little line down there. That deed tax is collected over here in recorder department. There's quite a bit of it actually, and it runs through here and then goes to the state. The county only gets 3%, but there's no budget number for that. It is what it is. Whatever kind of deeds they do and processing in the recorders is what it is. So we don't budget it. I put it here as its own little line down there as a little subline, so we didn't kind of like make the regular budgeted stuff hard to understand. This makes it a little easier to understand, I think, by just having that variance there. So on the expenditure side in 149, we are seeing $1.7 million at this point in time at the end of September, actually over the original budget, and that ties to ARPA expenditures. We had no budget for ARPA expenditures going out. Again, they were going to be whatever they were going to be. There's no need to raise funds for them. They're a fund balance use, and so there was no number there. It's $1,044,415 ARPA disbursements as of this report. And then it's basically on track on the revenue column at 149.
What happened at Maple Lake?
Yeah, great question. That was my next one, my last one, I guess. So it was, I did look into that, and it was the super property it's described as. Purchase of the super property, $66,437. No budget for that. So that seems like it was a planned thing, right? So that's what got that one up so high. We'll be on budget.
Okay.
I thought, as it maybe mentioned too while I'm here, that, I mean, so we do now just recently establish that designated fund for the two parks, Tilburg and even, with that big expenditure at this point in time, it's still, that fund would be growing by about 34,000. Just looking at the net of these activities here so far.
Isn't that the property that the county acquired for highway?
Highway.
Yeah.
And potential highway easement?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly could have been, yeah, there was one.
Mm-hmm.
But the 2024, as Ron said, is the first year that those are their own
Designated fund for the two parks combined?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the two parks are no longer on the levy.
Mm-hmm. And didn't he say something that because we purchased it because of the future highway project, somehow it'll be that purchasing of that?
I think what you might be getting at is that it has to be used for the intended purpose into perpetuity. We can't like sell it or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Okay. Well, that was what I was going to.
That makes sense.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah,
What was the extension one again? Back that up just a little bit.
Extension one.
Those are just calculation errors, formula errors.
That's
Oh, at the
fine.
far right where I've got those Devo things. I'm sorry about that. I should have cleaned up my worksheet. If it divides by 0 and it can't do them, it can't do the math, and I didn't notice those there. Is that what you're asking about at the far right column? Yeah, that's a worksheet error of mine. Sorry about that.
There's no significant revenues there anyway.
Yeah.
No, apparently not.
And we're scrolling down to number 3. That's the highway fund, of course, and I don't have a lot to say about it in the sense I would kind of like defer to Richard to explain, but you can see that at this point in time he is at 100% of expenditures. I can kind of give you the largest items. In his Department 310, highway contracts are over the original budget by 596, and the line called equipment and machinery and capital is over budget by 594. That's about all I can tell you because I can only got what I have in the accounts, account descriptions and stuff, but I'm sure Richard can totally fill you in on that. I have one other expenditure. It's not as big, but in the main Department 300 administration, there's just about 40,000 over in data processing software. I must have purchased some software there.
It's probably the GovApp, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've maybe heard it discussed before already.
No, the voucher software software. I'm guessing it's that.
Oh, right. Yes, yeah, he has a accounts payable software. Yeah, yeah, that would maybe be brand new and unbudgeted. Let me just flip through here. Yeah, I think that's really about all I can can explain on that. I mean, Richard could give you, I'm sure, plenty of information on that. I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily worrisome because he may have state or federal money coming in to cover those additional construction costs. It just isn't here yet. I mean, that could very.
Oh, we can follow up with
Yeah,
them.
thank you. Other funds, as we scroll on down, I just didn't see everybody's coming in under, which is going to be pretty fun. But social right now is at 66%. The library is right on at 75%. And the safety fund, only 70%, 72% bottom line. I might, since we're here just for informational purposes, see the cost. What's it called? 250 corrections cost share. That's us paying, Andy's people for our share, and they do bill us quarterly. That's why 75% makes perfect sense there. So basically running pretty good. I mean, if you were to look at, I suppose this is true on most of these funds, if you were to look at the revenue column, they haven't got their second half tax dollars. Those are going to come in December, so that would explain a significant shortage there. And then to health, there's at 72%. Environmental at 67 only. 63 for the Boston operation and 74 at the landfill. Those all seem like they're going to end up pretty good with just a quarter to go. That's all I had to say is this final bit, those collections on those ambulances, we just remit those when they come through. That's all I had to speak about for this time.
Anything else? All right.
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Have a good lunch.
Let's see, it's me now, right? Yep. I will say, as I get paid pretty good money, I can defend myself. I don't take comments personally, but as far as the board is concerned, I don't think you have done anything wrong. You set a map that Mr. Pribula is disputing. Your conversation was, we had a map of their territory. We just included the rest of the county so that you wouldn't leave anybody out. Whether it's a fuzzy line or not, that discussion took place. That's the map. There's plenty of time, there's plenty of room to determine a more appropriate line if that is in order. But I've been with you on a lot of these discussions. I have not seen anything nefarious.
I would kind of disagree with that comment. There's been a map filed at Polk County since 2012. There was a management plan filed in 2008.
That was the map we had. That's all I'm saying.
I understand.
The intent was to not leave anybody in the county out.
Homework, and it was filed with both the auditor and
This county, the five of you will have the opportunity, because you set the map to begin with, of changing it. But that's the map right now. And it's not any skin off my nose if it's changed, because the intention was to make sure everybody in the county has an opportunity to be in a rural water system.
Yep.
I don't think there was anything else to it.
Yeah, and we did not make the decision for Climax. They made their own decision.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep. Climax is, everything is in place for them. They're out of the picture.
The original maps that came from AE2S hardly didn't have all the county in it. And I think that's what raised the question is.
There's an issue about representation on the board based on whether the whole county is in this service area or not. We have 4 members on that board. If we reduce our area, we would go down to 3, could even down to 2. I don't know where it would go, but.
And conversely, Marshall Polk, if they're losing 21% of their, they could potentially, Polk County could lose one representative there. So it's
there needs to be some clarity as to what is the official Marshall Polk map.
Yep. And I'll go back to the 2012. It was all submitted to Polk County in 2012.
But I don't think that the representation on these boards is all that important. Because basically it comes down to the users are gonna decide everything.
The only reason why the two of you are on the board is because the counties are the ones that establish the process for forming a new district. But nothing says you have to be on the board.
Except that the state mandate is requiring us to be on there at this point, 2 commissioners.
Yeah, that was,
Yes, but from the beginning, when I first came on, I'm just gonna say this, my understanding. That very first map I seen from AE2S shows that map all the way up to Marshall, up that line,
Up to Brent there.
all the way up.
yeah,
And now seeing this, and if there, I just wanna know, if there was a map submitted in 2010, 2012, 2000, I don't give a crap. I wanna know, make dang sure. Because if there was something in Crookston filed in, not in Crookston, I'm sorry, in Polk County, filed from Marshall Polk, and it's on there and in the county somewhere that it's stating that, I want to know, because
if it's valid,
yeah,
then that'll be the case. There isn't any reason to question it. It's just based on the map that we had.
Right.
Whether it was given to us by
whoever,
West Central or whomever.
Yep.
There's been a lot of conversations between the attorney, the engineer at West Central, and Marshall Polk. I had conversations with Mr. Hillman on this. This isn't, the only issue I had, and I have no problem with the concern about where a line would be, this isn't some plot. This was right here at this table. Don't leave anybody out.
No.
Put the line where you want.
Let's get it fixed.
You did, but it wasn't after they were informed about it. And it isn't until we've got a court hearing that we're hearing about this. But it doesn't matter. The judge said, fix it. And she actually suggested that group, the new group, figure it out so that this group can decide. Because that's what your role actually is.
Because I'm wondering, why do I have people in Beltrami telling me one thing, citizens in Beltrami, the city of Beltrami, telling me that they have hearing from this group and this group, and I said, well, how did you hear from this group? Because that group haven't even talked to you yet. And I'm wondering,
West Central's talked to them. They've made it clear to them that they're interested in water.
West Central, yes.
Yeah.
This was before. It's West Polk or Marshall Polk that has talked to them years ago. Now the dots are connecting. I'm wondering,
So what's going to end up happening? In all likelihood, it is point-to-point transmission of water. At least that's how West Central is going to look at it.
That's my understanding.
You get from Neilsville or from Climax to Neilsville, Neilsville to Beltrami, and wherever else.
Yes.
What they're showing you is a little different. They got a map, but they're saying we can't just get it there. They tried. There's more than enough opportunity here for. I work for this group. I don't work for West Central.
Well,
I don't work for Marshall Polk. I didn't disagree at all. Figure out the best way to get water to people in Polk County.
And I'll say this, I think it's a tale of two opposing opinions.
Yep.
One very conservative and very cautious in their development. And let's face it, It's a very aggressive plan
Mm-hmm.
from A to ES
Mm-hmm.
on the district. And I'm in favor of the district, and I'm in favor of what Marshall Polk said, basically County Road 41. And it was my motions that got water to City of Climax. So I I understand the benefits of rural water.
Yeah.
And it's
It's no secret in the very beginning. I told you guys I wasn't very in tune with the fact of what AE2S was, but I've come to agree with that. Have I not, Warren? That the AE2S, this World Water thing, is probably something good. And then I'm seeing what these guys are saying, and what I'm learning. All I want to know is where that is because my flipping name is on that. I want to know. Draw the line. Tell me where the line is. If it's in Polk County, somewhere in your archives, way before my time.
And
If it's in there, find it, please, so that we can draw the line and both sides are happy. And then I don't have to be in the middle of it, please.
You're on top of it. You're not
Yep,
in the
I
middle.
understand that. I just want it fixed.
I've always had a different opinion. A hard line is something I don't like.
I understand that. But initially, we got to give them their boundaries. And then in 25 years, when we're both sitting with our feet up, they can figure out how to share the line.
Well, and we did talk about this because I remember saying it. The problem with the court process is you have to give a map.
Yes.
The water is not going to get extended by either group to many of those dots.
Correct.
Because you can't do it without the engineering.
Correct.
And it's not cheating going after funds. In fact, they may come to realize that there's interest to them as well for the same funds, but it's an engineering.
You almost need it if you're going to do anything.
Yeah, well, Climax.
People are going to pay $1
Case
million
in point.
for rural water.
I can't disagree. I like their approach. They did a great thing doing their thing, and they didn't like their toes being stepped on. And I'm wondering where the heck did this all come from?
Well, you want an easy subject? Let's pay for an agreement to help get another crossing over the river in the Grand Forks.
That'll be the easiest $53,000 of this whole project.
It goes all the way back to the user. The user, you try to get that person the best possible option. Whether it comes from this district or that district, I could care less.
Yeah,
All right, enough.
Thank
you. Resolvable.
Yep. Moving on.
So this is a request for amending the agreement with SRF. I tell you, I forget what SRF stands for. I've known that firm for decades, but this is the agreement that for RAISE, RAISE grant funds to amend the agreement from the original proposal. This modifies it. And again, it goes over the planning for the Merrifield or intercity bridges with East Grand Forks, and Grand Forks County. I don't know if Warren, you're on the MPO, if you want to speak to this a little bit more, but this is second or third time we've brought this up in terms of the cost sharing with the other three entities.
I don't remember what the discussion involved with whatever amount was set there.
Yeah.
Didn't we do this last year?
Yeah.
This was right after I started
It's
last year.
it's an amendment to that original grant agreement.
There was some
2023.
Polk County there was some commitment made by Polk County, so much money.
Yeah.
And then this study cost came in more. And we stuck with our original amount, and their City of East Grand Forks was making up the difference because we weren't up to our share, so to speak. I don't know what to do with this, if it's any big deal or not. But I've seen enough grant writing going on in that whole process, so it just about makes me sick because you just study and study and study and nothing ever happens. It just keeps studying.
Well, I think if I remember properly, I think the county's limit on it was like 40,000 or 45,000. It was basically a third of the original amount.
Hmm.
And I remember the amendment coming through, but was that right before or shortly after the mayor of East Grand Forks kind of pulled the reins in and said they're not spending any more money on
I think that's what if I remember right.
on consulting because they're not in favor of Merrifield, that they're in favor of an inner city bridge first, Merrifield second. That's what I recall.
And Grand Forks is on the opposite. They would support Merrifield, but they are not supporting 32nd.
So
And I don't
go back to my memo here, and I basically clipped this from what I received from the East Grand Forks City Administrator is there's $53,859 left from the original agreement, and they'd like to use those funds. So I don't think this is costing us any more. I think it's using funds that have been agreed to but have yet to be spent.
What's it going to be used for?
Well, the sentence that scares me in that motion is the bottom of the first paragraph. So the proposal is to amend the scope of work in the contract. That makes me nervous.
Of those funds remaining from the original contract.
You want to table this and get a meeting with East Grand Forks, and Grand Forks County?
We don't need a meeting. I think we just need clarification of the original dollar amount, scope of work, concepts, and
What are they changing?
Yeah, what are they changing? Yeah. If anything.
Well, yeah. I have not gone back to study the original.
Yeah.
The letter to the city administrator in East Grand Forks, I think, lays that out. But we can certainly take some time to follow up on questions.
That's a good question, Mark. That's good catch there. I didn't read that well enough.
Want me to bring it back 2 weeks?
Yeah, just a simple explanation of what are dollar amount that we agreed to initially, the amendment,
what's changing in the scope
and the scope of change. So
it could be a one-liner.
Because the raise application, that's what we use to try and get the funds for Neilsville Bridge. It's the same application we have done. I mean, I think it's changed names like 3 different times in the last few years, but.
Do I get time to go to the bathroom, please?
Of course you do. Don't mind me, I'm just gonna... Music from Jeopardy is going through my head right now.
What's the final question?
Are we gonna have to wait till 1:30 for the Sandhill issue?
We're gonna have that gentleman come in at the next meeting.
Oh.
Ashley was able to contact April
Oh, okay.
and he'll come in on December 2nd or December 3rd.
The reappointment is,
These renewals of the appointments, do they really need to waste money coming in?
Well, in the past, the board has always talked to the person. Sometimes you've had more than one. So we've just been doing what we've been doing before. But
Just on Stewart?
if you want to just appoint him and save him the trouble of coming in, you certainly can.
I so move.
I think on Terry, it was, I'm the only one, how many years you've been servicing and the comment about the minutes.
This is Stewart's 18th year, so, you know, he's been doing it forever.
oh, there's no question about
Yeah.
his qualifications.
Mm-mm.
Well, it's on the agenda. Someone want to?
I so move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion on Stuart Christian's appointment? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. Congratulations, Stuart.
And he already agreed besides, so. After the fact,
That's
sorry.
fine.
Thank you for your service.
Save him the trip. His night is now free. Went back after my last discussion with you on the budget, and we were able to close the gap. As I think I mentioned to you, that a lot of it was in highway, but we were also reviewing all the wage numbers. I should mention, by the way, got notified last night that the maintenance group in highway has voted yes for their contract.
They did.
Yeah, so that's another one. We still are waiting for the 2 LELS groups, one AFSMI group, and the solid waste group has asked for a meeting after they voted their tentatively agreement down. So we got a little work to do there. That probably won't come until after we're done with the budget in December. So,
but they must be close, yes?
Well, I thought we thought we had an agreement.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, we had a TA.
Okay.
Yeah, these things happen. The long and the short of it here, the changes, with the little modification from me at the end, Highway did reduce some of its project expenses. The recounting of all projected wages for next year. I actually reduced a little bit the amount of fund balance applied, and I bring us to a 3% levy increase. I'll go over some of the details here a little bit. I kind of work backwards. The amount of general fund balance I've got penciled in at $497,734, just straight up, not applied to anything. These all use fund balance, a general fund. I've shared with you those before. Finance has a deficit of actually, the way Ron positioned the $246,000 for the Abdo agreement from last week or 2 weeks ago, that's covered by ARPA funds, but here it shows up as use of reserves. It's basically the same thing. These are just capital expenditures. I noted those last time. Those will come from fund balance. Under buildings, we've got a number of things, but there's also some bond funds applied here. I think Ron was able to calculate that $425,150. Of that is remaining capital improvement bonds.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yep. This I've explained before. That's just the amount you contribute to the nonprofits under appropriations that are not the two soil water conservation districts. So you tally it all up. A lot of it, again, ARPA and bond funds, but it's going to show up here as a general fund use of reserves. Planning and zoning, I didn't touch. They have a services line. I believe that's pictometry. Probably the one to note here is public safety, which is basically the sheriff's department. I've got his capital items there. I do have in there, you'll see $178,610 for the dispatch center, which you just approved. It's a little ways down the list. I will go back and make sure I've got what he showed you today reconciled with that number. I'm also using $300,000 of public safety grant funds. I think you may remember those. The county about a year ago received $602,000 as a legislative appropriation for public safety. So this was using about half of that to reduce the levy, but it can certainly be used for the equipment and items that are being purchased there, budgeted for.
I thought his total was a little higher than that. 170. But if
yeah,
will be at least 200,000 by the time we're done.
Yeah, but remember he's using gun money.
Yeah,
gun
right,
money, which does not get washed to the general fund. That's its own
Yep,
thing.
Yep.
I have to sort that out a little bit. Oops. Let's see, where am I? Social services was the one I was actually able to reduce the use of their fund balance. That's not right. It's not $9,500,000. It's $950,000 of fund balance. Yeah, sorry, long day, but and they have vehicle leases like the other departments. I've taken that out of fund balance, and I think even from what you saw, what the numbers that Ron showed you, and what you saw earlier today from Karen, we have this. We always seem to come under budget. That leaves fund balance. So it's this kind of this rolling thing. I've never really been totally comfortable with the squish that comes along with it. It's kind of suggests to me our inability to create precision in what we're doing. But it works, and perhaps we will come up with a better budgeting approach.
Yeah, don't you think that's with Abdo we might see a better no squishing?
Well, I'd like to think so. What concerns me, it's not just on the expenditure side. What about the revenue side? And I think we're going to need to sit down and probably have a little more deliberate approach on investments, because I do think we can probably do better there with our cash management. We keep things very liquid right now. It's very flexible. We can use it, but I've worked places where you're able to do more management. Money comes available when you need it. Therefore, it can be invested until that moment you get a better return.
Don't you almost have to have an investment person to do that then?
Yeah. That's what I've had other places. It's hard to do that.
Somebody's got to watch that 24/7.
Right.
Not me.
You have to have a policy. You got to comply with state statutes, because we can't invest public money the way you invest your own money. But you should have a policy so that we have guidelines in place, and then they're out there that deal with public entities just for that purpose.
Abdo doesn't do that?
I don't know that they do it, but they can help us, I think, facilitate it. Yeah.
Can I make two comments?
Hmm?
One on highways. I received a phone call from Rich week ago or whatever it was about being cut. And I think he made a very valid point, and I'll go back to a public meeting Rich actually had up at Tabor, Minnesota, 22, maybe 21. And at that time, he indicated that a project up in our area, which is critical, rebuilding a county road and resloping a county ditch system that probably would be on the books or in the master plan once the current 5-year plan had expired, that was on the books for 25, 26, and possibly 27. When we approved the 5-year plan just a few months ago, that project that's dear and near to me wasn't even on the 5-year plan and had been pushed off a little bit further. And I understand costs and so forth and so on. Rich's point is, then why do we do a 5-year plan if we're going to start cutting dollars out of the budget? And I understand what he's saying and so forth and so on. And I understand Rich is very aggressive, and he's done a very good job of maintaining roads, and whether an overlay gets done this year or next year depends on the condition of the road, so forth and so on, and prioritizing. And I get that the plans are plans and they can be subject to change, but like he said, if the highways are going to be subject to big budget cuts all the time, then we just throw the 5-year plan out the window. And the other side of that is, I think it's been a relatively easy budget year. You may not think so, but you're basically, most of my constituents are going into a budget season on their farms where they're looking at tight budgets and so forth and so on. And overall, countywide, 14.9% assessed value increase. And Mr. Strandell talked about that earlier. His taxes actually went down. That's great, but it'd be interesting the percent of increase on your assessed value. And that's what I'm nervous of going forward is, and I've seen it in the city of East Grand Forks when I was on the council there. The assessed values were going up and the budget was doing this. And unfortunately, this was going like that and the budget kept going up. And the levy then had to increase. So we need to be careful, and some of this expense, payroll is the biggest one for the county. Some of that we can't necessarily control, but it concerns me going forward because we're going to come to a time when property values are going down, especially with today higher interest rates on mortgages, so forth and so on. And I think that unfortunately the process is a 2-year delay in the assessed value escalation. So that scares me.
Well, I think to if your residential taxes have gone down based on what was the notice that went out, which is based on a 5% levy increase. Who's going up? And in Polk County, that's probably agriculture.
Yeah, 24.2% increase. That's telling me my $5,000 an acre land is now going to 6,500, and then it affects the watershed, school district, and all the incidentals that are below it. And I'm sorry, it's not there. And yeah.
Well, you can raise the levy $551,000 based on your preliminary levy, from what I've got here. But his comment to me was that 2.4 million for either County Road 222 or 267. So I think, yeah, we do have to have that discussion again, but we need to have it every year. And there is probably no department that knows its life cycle based on formulas than an engineering department that manages highways. So it's the same in my other county, same here. It's very predictable. A lot of places don't keep up with it.
So it concerns me going forward.
Whole thing about property taxes, they're not based on the services you receive. Not a bit.
No. And that's, I mentioned it here a couple meetings ago. This guy called, the gentleman called me. I'm 2 miles away from any county road. What am I getting for my dollar?
Yeah, the same thing with schools. People say, I my kids aren't in school anymore. Well, I don't know how valid that is.
That's very narrow-sighted.
Yes.
Because at one point in time, we had children there. Come on.
Yep.
And
that's a
you
community.
Want to live next to.
Exactly. So I think we have to understand that.
Well,
requires.
I was in the metropolis of Middle River, and the meeting was in their school. And talking to the gentleman that approached me, and so forth and so on. I said, "What year did I even forget what year the school closed?" And they actually had done a big referendum 2 years prior for new heating, air conditioning, and this and that and the other thing, and all these improvements. Then they close it, and they're still paying taxes.
On that referendum.
So you've got about a $73 million expenditure budget and $40 million revenue budget. So your difference is what gets made up by property tax.
Yep.
So the property tax levy would be this number right here. Or no, I'm sorry, this number right there.
Which I appreciate. My comments are my comments, and I appreciate the effort that everybody's put into it.
I'm not offended with this one. I'm just trying to make it work.
It scares me going forward.
I will mention that we don't have it for today, but it did come up at the Tri-County meeting that the settlement with Pierce Lee has been agreed to. The last number, $900,000. So there's a portion of that, frankly, all of it, I think, should be put towards the bond payments.
Agree.
Yeah.
So the interest is what I've got here as an offset to the bond payments. Figuring we're going to get that amount. We're going to get an amount at some point. We're probably going to get an amount less what has been spent on legal fees. And I have talked to Andy about it. It came up briefly at the meeting yesterday. I'm going to suggest that Polk County absorb the half that Tri-County paid for legal expenses and call it good, since they have really no way of calculating their losses or gains having the facility shut down. I do think then that there's some residue that's left over, that the amount doesn't pay for the entire amount that was bonded for by about $400,000 or $500,000, and that I sit down with Andy and Paul over there, and we just figure out what does that mean from a Tri-County standpoint. And we're almost 89% of Tri-County's budget, so we're just talking about the difference there in the end and just how to do it. So that'll be coming back, but I'm presuming that we're going to be getting those funds here relatively quickly, but we should be applying it towards the bond payment.
What was the over on the fixing up the juvenile center? What was the bond?
So it was a $3 million bond, but we did other things. So for the juvenile center, it was about I want to say 1.46 or something. You know, 1.5 if you round.
And we'll net 600.
Half. After legal fees, we're probably looking at about $750,000.
Better than stick right here.
We did end up with a better facility. We have to admit that. It's,
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I missed that meeting. You guys sent it in an email and I was at work and I looked at it that night and I said, I missed the meeting.
Well, we had 3 here because
Yeah. Because I read it afterward that it was all said and done. I said, "Oh, good, they had enough people there."
Got her done.
if this looks good to you, what I'll do is I'll spend my time here the rest of this week and next getting ready for the public hearing. And on the 3rd in the afternoon, I'll do a rehearsal with you with the presentation. I generally keep it pretty consistent. One question that has come up, I've even had discussions with Ron about a little bit, but try to bring Abdo into the budget. It's just late to do that, and they've got a number of things in front of this as a priority to get to. So I do think after first of the year, maybe late spring before we start 2026 budget, I'm spending time with them about how we do this.
Sure.
I will commend the department heads. They're they are pretty conservative, and not only did they come in with basically no real exciting changes, the exciting changes, and I mean that from the standpoint of the great unknown and things that are going to drive everything else, were those contracts, the union contracts. The other thing that they tend to do, and I think this benefits us each year, is at this time is they have their budget and they spend a lot of time. They end up coming in under. Some of that's personnel turnover, but some of it is finding a savings here, a savings there. The case in point, this year we had budgeted $300,000 to fix the Polk County Historical Facility over there, and we ended up spending $60,000 on that. I will say I've taken it upon myself just to do this. I hope it's okay, but we've been talking to MCIT about what they've got it covered for, and it's way too high. It is nowhere near what. Get that thing down, and we can just take the premium each year. It should be very minor.
We've got 2 meetings left in this year, and we just get rid of it.
Yeah, well, I asked him when we signed the papers to turn it over.
You own it. I mean, somebody you have to have a willing
50
buyer.
cents.
50 cents. I got that offer for a pool here the other day, and I said no. So,
Yeah, you can try the pools. Relatively.
I'm thinking social services, did we create a new position there today? That one management position, and then part of that motion was to replace anybody below that?
If they move up.
If somebody within the department moves up, then you have another vacancy.
And then they have to replace.
But it's moving.
We created one new position in the.
No,
we went from 3 unfilled to 4.
Mm-hmm. Wait a minute, which position? Are you talking about the one that Karen and Sarah came in?
Yeah.
Yeah. It exists in Sarah's department. It is going to Karen's.
And then Sarah is short, eliminating one.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. That this was the new management position in social services. Didn't have anything to do with public health.
Oh, it's a team leader.
That team leader. That was promoting from the ranks up to a top.
It'll
be then replacing
no. It's not a new position. It's we do this many times.
Mm-hmm.
We have one that ends up being the lead.
Yeah.
It's still a union position. It's just basically a pay grade up. It's not management, but it's somebody that can coordinate, direct staff, but they don't discipline, they don't hire, fire, that kind of thing. That's still management.
Okay, well, but that's,
Like a foreman.
Karen stated that's actually a step down on
For the one that went from
15
Sarah
to 14.
to
Transfer.
Karen. That was, yeah.
The other one.
Grade 14.
That's the other one, yeah.
It's actually a different union too. So,
Anything else?
to answer your question?
no, I don't think I did. Did it? I think we're talking about something totally different there. I'm gonna try to find this if I can.
I'll certainly be whatever, try to answer it.
Anything else?
Sam was on the original agenda, but he's not here.
Right.
So
He'll be at the next meeting.
that was 2 revisions ago.
Well, it wasn't his plan not to be here until the weekend, so.
Yeah.
Just making sure it wasn't.
Oh, it's not. We had some changes yesterday, and I think Ashley just made the modification.
If not, we're